You awake? Dad, please answer.
Chris? It's 2 inches the morning. I just got back from the Seattle red eye. What's wrong? Is Cassandra okay?
I'm in the basement. Something is happening.
In the studio? At this hour?
I heard it again. That noise Gary mentioned on Tuesday.
The sobbing? Chris, we talked about this. Cassandra said it was her crime documentary.
She lied. Dad, I'm standing by the back wall, the one she just repainted. I tapped on it. It's hollow.
What do you mean, hollow? That's a foundation wall.
Not anymore. I stayed quiet for 10 minutes, just breathing. And then I heard it. Not a TV. Not a recording. Someone is hyperventilating on the other side of the drywall.
Stay right there. Do not move.
I'm scared to death. I whispered her name.
Whose name?
Felicia.
Chris, don't. Your sister has been gone for 8 years.
The breathing stopped instantly when I said it. Then I heard a gasp. A real human gasp.
I'm coming downstairs.
No. I heard Cassandra's door hinge squeak upstairs. She's coming down. I have to hide.
Get out of there now. 2:34 a.m.
I'm back in my room. I barely made it up the stairs. Dad, I found something earlier today while she was at the gallery. I went through her office files.
You did what?
The grocery receipts. For 2 years, she's been spending $200 a week on food. Canned soup, bulk rice, water, and women's hygiene products.
She said those were for VIP guests at the studio.
She has a birth control implant, Dad. She doesn't use those products. I checked the dates. It's every single month. For years. Someone has been living under our feet.
My God. I'm looking at the bank records Steven sent me. I didn't want to tell you yet. $350,000 is missing from Felicia's trust. $100,000 went to a contractor in Iowa for basement remodeling.
We never remodeled. She built a cage.
I'm calling Steven.
Wait, I have more. Riley, Felicia's old roommate, sent me a link. She's been tracking the jewelry Cassandra sells. She found 15 pieces that are exact copies of Felicia's old sketches. Every piece has a microscopic F carved into the design.
A signature.
Felicia's signature. She's alive, Dad. She's been 20 feet under your bed for 8 years.
I feel like I can't breathe. I'm the one who filed the missing persons report. I sat in this kitchen with Cassandra and cried while she told me Felicia probably just needed space.
She played us both.
I'm going back down. Right now.
Dad, wait for the cops.
I can't wait. 3312 Dud. I'm at the keypad, hidden behind the bookshelf.
A keypad?
She rigged a digital lock. I'm trying the codes. Her birthday. Red light. Felicia's birthday. Red light.
Try the date she went missing.
Downtenling Yishalo. It turned green.
Oh my God.
The door is heavy steel. I'm opening it.
Dad, answer me.
The smell. It's like a tomb. I see her.
Is she?
She's huddled on a cot. She's so thin, Chris. She looks like a ghost. Her walls are covered in drawings of my face.
Is it her?
She just looked at me. She said, Dad, I have her. I'm holding her.
I'm calling 911.
Tell them Ashford Lane. Tell them my daughter is home.
Cassandra is in the hallway. She's screaming at me. She's saying she did it for the family.
Lock your door. I hear the sirens.
They're here. They're taking Cassandra in handcuffs. She's looking at me like I'm the one who betrayed her.
Let her look. I'm in the ambulance with Felicia. She won't let go of my hand. 8 years, Chris. We lived in a house built on a lie.
But the truth is out now.
Yeah, she's safe. It was supposed to be a chill Tuesday morning. My oldest kid had already rolled out to her hustle, and I had my regular yard guy taking care of the grass outside. But a quick minute later, my cell lit up. My landscaper was on the line, his voice dropping dead low. Yo, boss. Not trying to freak you out or nothing, but you got someone else crashing at your spot? Man, my fingers froze around my morning. The hell are you talking about? I spat back, though my gut was already doing flips. Somebody's bawling, he muttered, sounding spooked. Coming straight from under your crib. And trust me, that ain't no television show. Right then and there, it hit me like a ton of bricks. My own sanctuary was keeping 6 secrets right under my nose. Creeping down there to scope things out flipped my whole reality upside down. Honestly, I appreciate y'all riding out this wild journey with me. Drop a line in the section below and let a brother know what city you're tuning in from. Reading those shoutouts keeps me grounded, knowing I ain't spilling this crazy saga to an empty room. Oh, and quick heads up before we dive deeper. We tweaked a few details here and there to make the narrative hit harder and keep things smooth. Any connections to actual folks or actual blocks is straight up by chance. But the real talk underneath it all? That's heavy, and you definitely need to chew on it. Like I said, Tuesdays were meant for peace and quiet. Putting in 32 years flying big birds from Minneapolis out to Seattle, then Denver, and back to base, I lived for that dead silence between my shifts. That deep breath before throwing the gear back in the bag and hitting the tarmac for another 3-day grind across the map. So there I was, chilling in my kitchen over on Ashford Lane. It's this massive 2-story joint me and Margaret locked down 23 years back, right when Cassandra was hitting 9 and little Felicia was just 4. Back in the day when my girls were making noise all over the place, and my wife was always humming some tune while taking care of her plants. Feels like a whole other lifetime now. Lost Margaret 10 years ago. Then Felicia went off the grid 8 years back, just ghosted into the night at 19. Leaving us with 0 answers and a hole in my chest that ain't ever closing up. Fast forward, it's just me and my oldest, Cassandra, holding down the fort. At 32, she's a certified boss who flipped our cellar into a custom jewelry setup, running a hustle that would have brought tears to her mom's eyes. She had already bounced to her downtown spot by 7 flat. Regular Tuesday routine gave me a quick peck, nagged me about my health pills, and rolled out. This massive place felt like a ghost town with just us two, but it was still our turf. I was pouring my second mug of that heavy dark roast from Hennepin Avenue, scoping out the digits on the stove. 7:34. My flight to the Pacific Northwest wasn't wheels up until way later in the day. Had crazy time to stuff my bags, check the radar, maybe holler at Steven about hitting the links come Friday. Then my line started buzzing, Marcus flashing on the caller ID. Dude had been cutting my grass every Tuesday for 6 years straight, never blowing up my phone unless it was an absolute emergency. "Mr. Hayes," he started, sounding super tight, like he was stepping on landmines just talking to me. "My bad for ringing you up, man, but there's some wild noise going on out here you gotta check out." I slammed the carafe down hard. You spend decades flying through storms. You learn real quick when someone's panicking. "Talk to me, Gary. What's the deal?" "I'm out front getting the edges," he said, "and I'm catching this crazy sound. It's echoing right out your basement vents. Deadass sounds like somebody sobbing." I could hear his rig idling in the background. Been going steady for a minute. Muffled, like whoever it is trying to stay ghost. I instantly drifted to the glass. Outside, Gary was posted by his machine, cell glued to his head, locking eyes on the ground floor grates. My kid had bounced exactly 45 minutes prior. Nobody should be inside this joint but me. "I'm on it," I told him. Those old wooden cellar steps groaned as I took them 16 drops I've made a million times. Only today, my boots felt like lead. Hitting the concrete, I froze and strained my ears. Dead quiet, except for the heater kicking on and the dirty hum of those tube lights. My daughter's setup took up the entire back half of the space, a zone we gutted and flipped together 5 years back. I was the one who slapped that fresh gray paint on the walls, wired up the overheads, and knocked out custom racks for her gear. We'd hustled on it together for weeks, cracking jokes like we used to when she was just a kid. I pushed her heavy door open. At first glance, same old scene. Her massive 25 by 15-foot workbench owned the middle of the floor, loaded with tools laid out like a surgical tray. Glass boxes hugged the perimeter, bouncing light off heavy silver pieces and gold links custom work that locked in her high-end clientele. But the vibe in that room was completely off. Pushing up to the bench, I clocked a water cup dripping with fresh sweat. Swiped my finger across it. Still ice cold. The digital readout on the wall hit 7:43. She dipped out at 7 sharp. Swallowing hard, I gave the spot a heavy visual sweep, peeped the mini sink tucked in the back. The chrome handles were straight up wet, and you could still catch that fresh hit of fancy purple soap hovering in the air. That's when my radar locked onto the rear drywall. The color was identical to the rest of the joint, but the grain was completely off, way too slick, way too fresh. Like somebody did a rush job slapping mud and a fresh coat over a hole. I flattened my palm against the surface and hit it with a couple of hard taps. Just a dead, hollow echo behind the drywall. I whipped around when I heard my name. Gary was lingering at the bottom step, wringing out his work gloves. The guy didn't have a fake bone in his body. If he said he heard something, he did. Catch anything shady? He muttered. Dead silent down here, I shot back. But the lie tasted like ash in my mouth. Man, I'm telling you, it was loud and clear, Gary insisted. Some girl bawling her eyes out, trying to keep it muffled so nobody'd catch on. His eyes kept darting toward that blank plaster before locking onto mine. You think it's bouncing from next door? Some neighborhood domestic crap? I asked. Could be, I mumbled, though we both knew that was pure garbage. Outside, a heavy car door slammed shut. Then came the unmistakable clatter of heels hitting the floorboards above Cassandra. A second later, she was looming at the top of the stairwell. She looked completely thrown off. Pops? Gary? What the hell is happening? I played it straight. Gary picked up on some weird noises over the lawnmower. Just doing a quick sweep, I told her. Sounded like weeping. Gary chimed in, looking guilty as sin. Cassie let out this breezy little chuckle. Damn, that was just my crime show playing. I was grinding away on a commission way past midnight and had a documentary blasting, straight-up tearjerker interviews. Must have left the damn thing running when I crashed, but it kills the power on a timer. Gary visibly dropped his guard. Well, that checks out. My bad for tweaking you out, Gary, she cooed, giving his shoulder a quick squeeze. The old man here is always riding my ass about burning the midnight oil. So what are you doing back at the crib? I pressed. Didn't you have a sit-down? I sure do. She fired back, smooth as ice. But I left my lookbook behind. Ain't nobody landing a fat contract without the visuals. Just gonna snatch it and bounce. She made a move to come down, but I blocked her path. I got it. Where's it at? For a split second, her mask slipped. That red leather binder on the window ledge. I scooped it up, passed it off, and watched her bolt, tossing one last fake apology to the yard guy. Posted up at the kitchen sink, I tracked her fancy ride peeling out down Ashford Lane. Gary fired the mower back up. I really needed to throw my bags together, but my feet dragged me right back to the basement. The workspace hadn't changed, but the whole vibe felt radioactive now. That hit of hand soap in the air was fresh. The condensation on the tumbler was ice cold. My kid didn't pull no all-nighter down here. She rolled in right at 6 o'clock. If she had crept down here later, I would have caught it. That fifth tread groans like a dying man. I rapped my knuckles on the drywall one more time. Pure echo. Then my cell vibrated. Cassie texting me. Thanks for running interference, Pops. Love you. Running. Interference. I punched in. Love you back. But gripping that chilled glass, all I could hear was Gary's voice rattling around my skull. A woman crying, trying to keep it muffled. I wanted to buy her story. Lord knows I wanted to trust my own flesh and blood, but the edge in her tone totally betrayed that plastic grin. Not to mention, the cold, hard evidence in my hand was screaming a whole different narrative. Crashing out that night was impossible. I was flat on my back, burning holes into the bedroom ceiling, the same room Margaret and I shared, for 18 solid years before she left this earth. The red digits on my nightstand flashed 11:47 p.m., then hit midnight, then dragged on to 1:15. The wind outside was whipping through the oaks on Ashford, a white noise that usually knocked me out cold after hopping time zones on a red-eye. But tonight, it just made the walls feel like they were breathing, like they were watching me. The dead air was suffocating, heavy as a brick, like the whole damn structure was bracing for an impact. At 2:15 in the morning, it hit. A faint, nagging groan from the floorboards below. That specific creak a beat-up house gives off when somebody is tiptoeing through the dark, trying to stay off the radar. I shot my hand out for the light switch, but froze mid-air. If a prowler was creeping around, hell, if it was Cassie creeping around, I couldn't blow my cover. I needed to step up and check it out. Should have ghosted down those 16 steps to catch exactly what kind of shady business was going down in my basement at 2 in the morning. I choked, just stayed glued to the mattress in the pitch black, my heart hammering in my ears, wondering when the hell I turned into a punk too scared to pull his own kid's card. Margaret would have handled it. The thought ambushed me out of nowhere, just like the memories of her always do, even 10 years in the ground. She was the heavyweight of this family. She could read a room the way I skim flight dials dead on and gut instinct fast. Back when Cassie was 7 and tried pushing a lie about a smashed lamp, Margaret had her dead to rights before the kid even opened her mouth. When Felicia hit 16 and sneaked out to go get trashed, Margaret was already posted up in the dark, waiting for her to scramble back through her window at 2 in the morning. "Watch over our girls, Chris," she begged me during her last few weeks. Her frail fingers were shaking inside my grip, her voice hanging by a thread. "They're gonna need you. Give me your word." And I swore up and down. Lord knows I made that vow. But did I actually step up? Or did I just become a roommate to my own kids, lost in airport layovers, making grocery runs, and just barely keeping the lights on while entirely missing the reality going down in my own damn house? Margaret would have cut right through the garbage happening downstairs. She'd stare Cassie down and spot the con artist in her eyes a mile away. I never possessed that kind of radar. I'm a guy who relies on gauges, raw stats, and hard proof you can put on paper. But how the hell do you fact-check a lie when your only backup is a sick feeling in your stomach? Especially when your instincts are screaming a dark truth you absolutely refuse to swallow. And just like that, the floodgates opened on the past. 8 years back, March 15th. Felicia was just 19, sharp as a tack, bursting with a wild kind of fire for the future. She'd just bagged a killer freelance gig with some heavy-hitting New York design crew. That ticket was supposed to be her fast track out of Minneapolis for good. That night she vanished? Man, it's burned into my brain like acid. Tuesday evening, plates barely cleared. She was grinning at her screen, thumbing out a text while grabbing her coat. "Pops," she hollered from the hall, catching up with Sophie over some brew. Lauren, her day one ride or die from the local community college. Nothing seemed off. Not a single red flag. "Keep it between the lines," I told her, barely peeking up. "And don't be dragging your feet tonight. You've got that big league meeting tomorrow." "I won't. Love ya. Love you back." That was it. The absolute last exchange we ever had. Come sunup, her ride was completely ghosted from the driveway. Covers on her bed were stone-cold flat. Calls went straight to the machine. I hit up Sophie right off the bat, but she hadn't laid eyes on her. No plans made whatsoever. Not a single text either. When high noon hit, I was already down at the precinct filing missing papers. Sun went down, and the cops told me her plastic hadn't been swiped once. The cell tower caught her last signal over on Oakwood Avenue. But by the time the squad rolled up, the block was dead empty. Cassandra played the wrecked stepmom routine flawlessly. She was out there pushing flyers on the web, blowing up every damn number in Felicia's phone, hustling for weeks without breaking a sweat. Then, a whole month in, she drops this on me late one night. Maybe she just needed to breathe, you know? You know how your girl operates. Bet she just bounced early for that gig to skip the messy farewells. I swallowed that lie because I was desperate. But laying awake right now, all the sketchy little details I brushed off came knocking at my door. 3 years back, 2 in the morning, I caught this weird scraping sound creeping up from the cellar. Thought I heard whispers too, but it was mad quiet. Pressed Cassandra about it the next day. Just me. She played it cool, breaking in new gear, trying not to wake the house. I bought it hook, line, and sinker. 2 years deep, our supermarket tabs hit the roof. Client walkthroughs, she spun it. Gotta keep the snacks flowing. Cost of doing business. Seemed legit at the time. Then, last year, I catch her dead of night in the kitchen, stacking a heavy tray with subs, fresh fruit, and water bottles. Burning the midnight oil, she smirked. Tight deadlines. I just stood there, watching her haul that massive spread right down the cellar steps. My gut twisted up into tight knots, but I kept my mouth shut. Now, all those shady moments are piling up like a rap sheet. The sobbing my buddy Gary picked up on, the brand new coat of paint, that stray water cup, the stench of lavender soap, the midnight creeping. all those groceries vanishing underground. And right below the surface, the dark truth I was too coward to spit out. What if my little girl never actually hit the road? What if she's been locked up right here this whole damn time? 20 feet under where I sleep, blocked off by floorboards and my own messed up blindness? I jolted upright, heart pounding out of my chest, the whole room spinning. I dug my fingers into the bedsheets, hands trembling, not just spooked, but dead certain. A sick, twisted kind of realization. I snatched my cell and ripped open the notepad app. Tuesday, 7:34 in the morning. Weeping from the cellar. Tuesday, 7:45 in the morning. Fresh water cup. Tuesday, 7:45 in the morning. Freshly rolled walls. Tuesday, 7:50 in the morning. Smell of lavender suds. 3 years back. Late night cellar noise at 2 in the morning. 2 years back. Food costs skyrocket. 1 year back. Midnight feasts carried down the steps. I just glared at that screen while my eyes welled up and the words turned to mush. How the hell did I justify every single red flag? How'd I brainwash myself into thinking we were living the American dream? How did I sell my own kid down the river like this? My thumb just hung over Daniel's contact. My oldest dog, a hotshot attorney, the guy who'd know exactly how to handle this mess. But the clock was pushing 3 in the morning, and I was scared out of my mind, petrified that my gut was dead on, horrified at what it meant for my girl, and what kind of monster I'd been living with. I dropped the device, told myself I'd get my head straight when the sun came up tomorrow, figured I'd hunt down some logical excuse, because the flip side that my own flesh and blood spent 8 years caged in a concrete box while I snored right over her head was just too sick to swallow. I crashed back onto the mattress and just let the hours bleed until daylight. 2 days slip by. Cassandra heads out to flex at her fancy art gallery opening, and I finally pull a move I've never had the guts to do. Thursday afternoon, I started digging through her private stash. She bounced at 12 for a gig that wouldn't wrap until 5, maybe 6 o'clock. Gave me a solid window to either nail down the ugly truth or prove I was just a crazy old man losing his marbles. I posted up at the door of her office, the same room Margaret used to use for sewing. Fancy glass setup, heavy-duty file cabinets, and shelves stacked with thick design books color-coded like a damn museum. Spotless and tight, just like Cassandra's fake little world. I stepped in, my blood running cold. Checked the cabinet wide open. No locks. Yanked the bottom slider out and caught an expanding folder marked household grocery in her obsessive, perfect cursive. I scattered those slips all over her pristine desk. Hundreds of them, stacked tight by the day, rolling all the way back 2 solid years. Snagged a random one from the pile. Target run, March 2nd, 2024, $187.43. The breakdown ran a mile long, across 2 pages. 12 tins of soup, 6 boxes of noodles, 3 heavy sacks of rice, a couple 24 packs of bottled water, energy bars, jars of peanut spread, 2 full-sized bottles of daily vitamins, then hit the hygiene drop. Shampoo, hair rinse, 3 tubes of toothpaste, stick deodorant, and sitting right at the bottom, always ultra-thin pads, size 2. Ringing up at $24.99. My eyes locked dead on that final item. Cass had that birth control implant put in 5 years back. That stuck in my head from when we were going over her medical coverage. So what was the deal with her stocking up on feminine care week after week? I yanked out a different slip of paper. The local grocery. March 9th, 2022. $23.17. Same exact story. Veggies, pantry staples, a carton of eggs, daily supplements, bathroom basics, and boom, another box of regular tampons. $19.99. My hands were straight up trembling while I whipped out my cell to snap shots of every single paper trail. Feelings could wait. Securing the proof came first. The hustle was obvious. Week in and week out for 2 straight years, my kid was dropping anywhere from $170 to $230 a pop. She was copying the exact same stash. Non-perishable grub, everyday bathroom supplies, health pills, and ladies' stuff. The crazy part? Cass practically never touched a plate in this house. She was always out schmoozing buyers over fancy dinners. Anything shoved in our fridge usually turned to mush, unless a ghost was snacking on it. I punched the numbers into my app, averaging $200 a week, 52 weeks a year, 20 grand, $800 over 2 years flat. Then I stumbled on a hidden envelope packed with online delivery slips. Chicks apparel, size small, Cass rocked a medium. Plus, workout mats and stretch bands from June 2023. My daughter wouldn't know a downward dog if it bit her. Then came the softcover books in August 2023. Murder mysteries and suspense joints. She only ever flipped through glossy architecture rags. Next up, art paper and shading graphite around November 2023. Her gig was slinging bling, not drawing cartoons. Every single charge stayed low-key enough to fly under the radar. Put all those puzzle pieces together, though, and it screamed a whole different reality. Another soul was crashing in this spot. A phantom needing grub, threads, and entertainment. A tiny girl who spent her time sketching. Somebody who sounded a hell of a lot like Felicia. I dropped like a rock into my kid's office chair, just zoning in on that sea of paper evidence. Her ride pulled into the driveway at exactly 5:47 in the evening. By that minute, I had completely wiped the scene and was already whipping up some chow, searing her top pick, the chicken marsala. The whole house smelled cozy, totally routine. She strolled through the front entrance radiating good vibes. "Pops, I closed 3 deals, plus the Peterson lady is begging for a custom job. Most killer kickoff ever." I passed her a glass of red, telling her how freaking awesome that was. "Spill the tea," I urged. She kept jawing for 20 straight minutes about her buyers, the hype she got, and all her corporate hustling. She played the part perfectly, completely spotless, and totally chill. We dug into our plates. I held off until she fully let her guard down before dropping my bait. "Hey, I've been meaning to hit you up about something. You've been bringing your big spenders back to the pad, yeah?" Her eyes locked on me, silverware frozen in midair. "Where are you going with this?" "You know, the household spending. The supermarket bills have been through the damn roof lately. Just assumed you were throwing VIP bashes in the living room." The tiniest beat of silence hit before she flashed a grin. "Oh, totally. Exclusive showcases for the heavy hitters. They demand the good booze, top-shelf cheddar, and bougie snacks. It costs a pretty penny, but the return on investment is sick." Her tone was straight butter, not a crack in it. But her fingers were gripping that silverware so tight the blood left her skin. "Tracks perfectly," I casually threw back. "Did catch a ton of private bathroom stuff on those slips, though. Ladies' supplies. Just buying in bulk. Pops. Didn't even blink. It saves cash. You know I don't play around when it comes to keeping the finances tight. Swore you got that permanent birth control thing put in, though." 3 agonizing seconds of dead air. "I absolutely do." Now she was walking on eggshells. "But I gotta keep emergency stashes around for the guests. Sometimes the ladies get caught off guard and need a bailout. Just top-tier hosting." Her excuses checked out on paper, but her grip was still bone white. A tiny blood vessel was jumping on the side of her head. "That's super solid of you," I replied. Some of the tension bled out of her shoulders. "I do my best." We killed the rest of the meal chewing the fat about her work payouts and the sunshine outside. Completely mundane nonsense. She hit the stairs around 9 o'clock. Dead tired. Massive grind scheduled for the morning. "Catch you later, old man." Sweet dreams, kiddo. I sat in the dark and counted down 30 solid minutes. Then I crept down to the underground level. The workshop entrance was shut tight, but the latch was free. I ghosted right in, creeping through the pitch black, straight to the rear partition. I pressed my palm flat on the freshly coated drywall. Chilly, stiff, yet somehow empty inside. I gave it a super quiet tap. The thump echoed back, deadened, completely swallowed up. I shoved my ear against the surface and killed my breathing for half a minute. Crickets. But then, so quiet I thought I was tripping, came the rapid, shallow gasps. Somebody fighting like hell to stay off the radar. "Felicia." I breathed out into the dark. The panting cut off instantly. The quiet flooded the room, heavy enough to choke on. "Felicia," I hissed a second time. "If you're catching my voice right now." Heavy steps echoed from the floorboards above. Cass's bedroom hinge squeaked. I leaped back from the drywall, chest bumping like a bass drop, and hustled for the exit. Right over my shoulder, the hyperventilating kicked back into gear. Way faster now, almost sounding like quiet sobbing. I ghosted out of the room and booked it up the steps. Hours later, crashed in the sack. My eyes were just burning holes into the plaster above. By daylight, I was going to lock in a plan who to dial, how to bring the cavalry in. But one savage truth was eating me alive. My little girl had been locked up 20 feet from me. For 8 brutal years, she was trapped right under my damn nose. And I was about to kick the doors in and bring her home. Steve's ringtone went off Thursday post-noon, right while I was cramming gear into my duffel for the red-eye to Seattle. "Chris!" he barked. His tone stretched thin in a way that set off all my alarms. 2 decades of running together, and I'd never heard the guy sound like this. "We gotta chop it up immediately." I froze dead in my tracks, a half-folded tee just hanging from my grip. "Yo, talk to me. What's going down?" "Man, it's about the nest egg you put away for your girl, Felicia. I got some paperwork you gotta peep right now." My gut hit the floor. "The hell you talking about? Can't drop this dime on a call, bro. How quick can you slide through?" I checked my wrist. 2:30. My bird was supposed to take off at 6. "Give me 20 minutes. I'll be posted up." Steven's legal hustle ran out of the 12th floor up in the IDS tower, smack in the heart of downtown Minneapolis. Nothing but cold glass, heavy steel, and old money vibes. I'd rolled through this spot a million times since my wife Margaret passed, tweaking my paperwork, setting up Felicia's rainy day stash right after she turned 16. But today, that elevator ride felt like a straight-up death march. Steven was waiting on me right at the front desk, which instantly had my spidey senses tingling. Usually, his secretary dealt with the foot traffic. Dude looked way more washed than the last time we linked heavier bags under his eyes and salt and pepper in his hair. "Appreciate you sliding through," he muttered, giving me a solid dap. His handshake was tight, but his palm was sweating bullets. "Step into the back." Soon as we hit his personal office, he locked us in and shut the shades down tight. "Whatever I'm about to put you up on stays strictly in this room until we figure out the play," he warned. "Grab a seat." I fell into the leather chair. He cracked open a fat manila folder and started dealing out papers like playing cards all over his mahogany desk. Bank records, wire receipts, massive sheets completely packed with math. "You recall that stash Margaret locked down for your daughter?" he asked. $500,000, pieced together from her life insurance payout and life savings. Felicia was supposed to get the keys to the castle at 21, but when she went ghost, I handed the reins over to Cassandra to watch the bag for a minute. Cassandra was solid, I mumbled, though my own words felt like they were choking me. I figured the cash was locked up tight. Steven chose his next words, real careful. "On paper, you played it by the book, but Cassandra's been bleeding the account dry. Like, a serious amount of paper." He pushed a printed grid my way, lit up with bright yellow and red marker. "This tracks the last 8 years. Kicking off in March 2016, literally 2 weeks after your kid went missing." My vision went fuzzy looking at the ink. "March 28th, 2016. $50,000 out the door. April 15th, 2016. Another $50,000. May 3rd, 2016. Bam. $50,000. $50,000 a pop over 3 months," Steven whispered. "Tagged as clearing a debt for some dude named Brandon." That name hit a dim switch in my brain. Her old boy. They kicked it together back in the day. She straight up wired that man, $150,000 of your daughter's inheritance. The lawyer dropped on me. "And we're just getting started." He flipped another page over. "Chump change pulls, but constant. 2,000 today, 5,000 tomorrow. It snowballs," he muttered, running his pen down the bottom line. Looking at around $350,000 vanishing over an 8-year stretch. I gripped the armrest so hard my knuckles turned white. For what exactly? Steven yanked out a stack of bogus bills. If you believe Cassandra's paperwork, she was spreading it around on all kinds of nonsense. $100,000 got kicked over to an outfit named J. Morrison. Construction out in Iowa. Claimed it was for remodeling the crib. The air got sucked right out of my lungs. Remodeling? We ain't laid a single new brick in that house. I already did the digging. Stephen fired back. 0 city permits pulled. 0 inspectors sent out. Absolutely nothing legally registered to your spot in over 10 years. The whole office started spinning. I had to clutch the mahogany just to stay upright. Then there's another $80,000 chopped up as running costs. Groceries, random gear, building supplies. $70,000 went to popping off her art hustle, which actually lines up. Plus roughly $100,000 parked in private stashes and stock portfolios with only her name on them. She swore to my face that the art spot was built on bank credit. I gritted out. She played you, he replied. That brutal truth hung thick in the air like smoke. I couldn't stop staring at that printed grid. J. Morrison. Construction out in Iowa. $100,000. Who the hell is this J. Morrison? Still working on that piece of the puzzle, Stephen admitted. But throwing $100,000 in cold, hard cash at a ghost project is wild. He pushed his chair back and looked me dead in the eye. Chris, we gotta face the ugly truth here. Cassandra might know exactly what went down with your girl. The words tasted like poison coming out of my mouth. That she's been running game on me for 8 straight years. The lawyer stayed dead silent. That's when I finally spilled my guts to him about my neighbor Gary hearing the muffled sobbing next door. About finding that fresh glass of water with no coaster ring under it. All those phantom grocery store runs holding way too much food. And that brand new coat of paint down in the cellar, covering up a spot on the wall that echoed back empty when I tapped it. Stephen just took it all in, his face turning hard as stone. Once I wrapped up, he let out a heavy sigh. I gotta tread light with this next question, man. Do you honestly believe Cassandra had it in her to put hands on Felicia? Hell no, I shot back immediately. But then my voice cracked. Man, I don't even know anymore. Think about it, she's sitting on a mountain of cash, he pointed out. Brings in an out-of-town crew. Stocks up on a decade's worth of random supplies. He caught himself before finishing the thought. Bile rose in my throat. All right, here's the play, Stephen commanded, flipping the switch to wartime consigliere mode. I'm putting a financial bloodhound on the payroll. We're gonna follow every single cent. We track down this Brandon character, and we hunt down Jay Morrison. What's the timeline on that? 7 days. Maybe quicker. A whole damn week, I growled, getting up from the chair. My daughter might be... Listen to me, Chris, Stephen interrupted, snatching me by the shoulder. Do not go pressing Cassandra. Not right now. If your kid is still breathing and you tip your hand to Cassandra, things go bad real fast. You feel me? Yeah. So you head back to the crib, he instructed. You play it totally cool. Can you pull that off? An image flashed in my brain of Cassandra flashing her fake smile across the dining room table. I got this. He passed me a duplicate stack of the financial bombs. Bury these deep. 10 minutes later, I was parked out in my ride. The motor killed, just staring at the paperwork. $500,000. Every last dime my dead wife left to protect our little girl just straight up evaporated into thin air. Bled dry, a little at a time. $100,000 dumped into J. Morrison Construction out in Iowa. What the hell did Cassandra build with that kind of paper? And where was my kid while they were putting it together? I cranked the ignition. Seattle was going to have to take a back seat. Tomorrow, I was hunting down this Morrison guy to see exactly what he planted on my property. But bright and early Friday, right at 8:15, Eleanor was banging on my front door. I'd just dragged myself back from the West Coast, looking like pure death and running on empty. But one glance at her ghost-white, terrified face told me I wasn't catching any sleep today. Mr. Hayes, she stammered, her voice rattling. I got something you need to see. I should have spilled this ages ago, but I was scared to death. I moved out of the doorway. Get in here. Dorothy had been our next-door neighbor for 15 straight years. She and Margaret were tight back in the day. She was the one dropping off hot meals when my wife passed. Now she was 72, a lonely widow who spent most of her nights staring at the ceiling. She sat on the edge of the couch like she was ready to bolt, gripping a canvas tote, her eyes jumping back to the entryway. "I don't sleep heavy, Mr. Hayes. Haven't closed my eyes right since Robert passed away." She sucked in a jagged breath. And over the years, I started catching on to some stuff. What kind of stuff? I'm talking about the lights blazing down in your basement in the dead of night, long after the rest of your spot goes pitch black. And I spot Cassandra creeping down the stairs, hauling plates of food and stuffed trash bags. She took a beat. This all kicked off 8 years ago, right when Felicia went missing. Dorothy yanked 3 beat-up, dog-eared spiral notebooks out of her tote bag. I started writing it all down back in 2017. The routine stayed exactly the same. I flipped open the top one. Pages packed with scribbles. Every single move clocked with a date and time. March 15th, 2017, 2:30 in the morning. Cassandra slipped out of the basement holding a tray of clean plates. July 22nd, 2021, 11:45 at night. Caught some muffled sobbing coming from your spot. Went on for a solid 10 minutes. October 3rd, 2023, 3:15 in the morning. Cassandra did 3 runs down to the basement, hauling pillows, heavy blankets, and some books. Line after line covering years of this madness. Hundreds of logs. When it first started, she'd do it maybe 2 or 3 nights a week, Dorothy whispered. By 2018, it bumped up to 4 or 5. Always after midnight. Always when you were knocked out or out of town. The notepad just slid right through my fingers. "You actually heard crying?" She gave a nod, her eyes tearing up. I second-guessed myself because it was barely a whisper. But yeah, back in 2019, I called the cops on her. She stared down at her lap, dropped an anonymous tip claiming I felt sketchy about what was going down over here. Well, what the hell came of it? 2 uniforms rolled up. "You were out catching a flight." Cassandra gave them the grand tour, spinning some lie about running a side hustle downstairs. The badges bought it, gave her the thumbs up, and bounced. And then, Dorothy kept wringing her hands. The very next morning, Cassandra showed up at my front door. She had this grin plastered on her face, but there was pure ice behind it. She told me, "Mrs. Green, poking your nose where it doesn't belong is a risky game. It's real peaceful around here. Would be a damn shame if anything messed up our quiet little block." Her voice broke. She didn't spell out a threat, but I caught the drift, loud and clear. So, I stopped dialing 911. I just kept my eyes peeled and jotted everything down. I couldn't even be mad at this 72-year-old lady, still shaking in her boots right now. "You showed up today," I told her. "Takes serious guts to do that." With trembling fingers, she fished out a flash drive. "It gets deeper. So, last year I rigged up a camera pointing dead at your property. I know it's shady to spy, but I had to prove to myself I wasn't losing my damn mind. I jammed the stick into my computer. February 14th, 2024, 2:47 in the morning. The night vision reel caught Cassandra creeping out the cellar door, lugging heavy trash bags and looking over her shoulder. March 3rd, 2024, 12:35 in the morning. Cassandra posted up by the bottom entrance, staring straight up at my window to make sure I was knocked out. November 8th, 2023, 11:52 at night. A blacked-out 4-door whipped into my driveway. Some dude hopped out hauling a massive carton, and Cassandra linked up with him at the side entrance. They traded a few words, he handed over the stash, and peeled off. "Who the hell is that guy?" I demanded. "No clue, but I've spotted that exact ride 3 separate times this past year. Always creeping around after dark. Always dropping off some kind of package. Brandon, it was a dead giveaway. Got 47 clips on there," Dorothy mumbled. "More than enough to prove she's been running a night shift down there for 8 solid years. Kept it slick to make sure you were completely out of the loop." I popped the drive out, my hands shaking like a leaf. 8 years of cold, hard proof. 8 years of the lady next door peeping through the blinds, too terrified to speak up. So why blow the whistle today? Because this past Tuesday, I caught your yard guy talking on his cell. He picked up on the sobbing sounds, too. Once, I realized somebody else heard it. Tears started pouring down her cheeks. I just couldn't keep my mouth shut any longer. I reached out and grabbed her hand. I appreciate this, Dorothy. You got more heart than you give yourself credit for. So what's your next move? I'm gonna rip the lid off whatever my kid's got stashed down there, and I'll make damn sure she never lays a finger on another living soul. Once Dorothy bailed, I just sat there in the dead silence, staring at her logs scattered all over the glass table. 8 years of deep digging, airtight and crazy detailed. I looped the footage again, my own flesh and blood dragging trash bags, Cassandra scoping out my bedroom glass, that ghost car dropping off heavy cargo. My cell vibrated. A text popped up from her. Morning, Pops. Got a client lunch locked in till 3. Catch you tonight. Love you. Love you. Yeah, right. Or was I just another mark for her to hustle? I grabbed Dorothy's first ledger off the table, tucked right in the flap. If I end up in a body bag, hand this straight to the cops. Signed, Eleanor. She'd been quietly stacking receipts, waiting for the day someone would finally give a damn. Well, today was the day. I shoved her stash right into my master folder. Got Gary popping off on record. The supermarket paper trails, Stephen's sketchy trust papers, and now diaries and tapes, catching 8 solid years of pure shady business. The whole twisted puzzle was finally snapping into place. Dorothy's warning kept ringing in my ears. What the hell do you think she's keeping in that basement, Mr. Hayes? I kept glaring at that flash drive, staring down 8 years of midnight stakeout logs. In my gut, I already knew the sick truth. My blood, my little girl, Felicia. She was trapped in that hole, been locked down there this whole damn time, 20 feet right under where I sleep, buried behind fresh drywall and 8 years of straight-up bullshit. Come sunrise, I was busting her out. I didn't care what it cost me, didn't matter who got in my way, even if I had to tear through my other kid to do it. Then, boom. A LinkedIn notification hits my screen at 2:30 on a Friday. I just rolled up from Dorothy's spot, brain totally fried from reading all those scribbles and watching that trash-quality cam footage, when my cell started vibrating. Jade. Some digital artist pushing pixels over in Minneapolis. The subject line hit hard. Regarding Maya. We gotta talk as soon as possible. I just locked onto that name. That was my girl's ride or die from her college days at U of M. The same kid who used to blow up my phone every single week for the first 6 months after Felicia vanished, begging for updates. The one who finally went dark after a year, crying her eyes out on that final voicemail. I'm losing my mind over this, Mr. Hayes. I gotta tap out. Haven't heard a peep from her in 7 years. The text was straight to the point. Been doing my own digging on your daughter for the last 6 months. Got a major hit. We need to link up today. Since I was already knocking around the city, I dialed her right up. She picked up before the second ring. Mr. Hayes? Riley. I could barely get the words out. Spill it. What did you dig up? Hell no. Not over an open line, she snapped back. Pull up to Riverside Brew over on Hennepin. 4 o'clock, I checked the dash. 90 minutes to kill. I'm on my way. That coffee joint was hiding in a low-key alley off Hennepin. Just some hipster spot with hissing steamers where the rush totally dies down past 3. I posted up early, snagging a booth way in the back, far from the street view. She strolled through the door at exactly 4 o'clock, spotted her right off the bat. Still rocking those dark curls and that fast walk, but she had this hardened edge now. Looked about 27, slugging a beat-up leather bag over her shoulder, clutching a tablet tight. Sup, Mr. Hayes. She dropped into the booth across from me, doing a quick sweep of the room before locking eyes with me. Appreciate you making the drive. You said you got a lead. She gave a nod, slapping the tablet down on the wood. Look, you gotta wrap your head around this background first. We shared a pad from sophomore year all the way to graduation. She was my absolute ace. When she fell off the map, her voice choked up. She caught her breath. I dropped some serious cash on a private eye 6 months back. Set me back $8,000. Dude was mostly a bust, but he struck gold with this. She swiped the screen, bringing up a flashy site. Vanessa Designs. I recognized that garbage. Cassandra's little bling hustle. She started that gig 3 years after her sister went missing, pushing this sob story about turning her trauma into art. We're talking high-end chains, cuffs, and rings. Super clean silver and gold stuff, stacked with crazy detailed carvings. I'm familiar with her hustle, I muttered, eyes narrowing. So what? Riley clenched her teeth. Cassandra didn't draw a single piece of this, man. This is all Felicia's work. I just stared at her, stunned. The hell are you talking about? She flicked to the next slide. Showed a shiny silver chain with these crazy thin vines wrapping the borders. Check it. Straight out of Cassandra's 2022 catalog. $1,200 a pop. Cleaned out in 3 days. Another swipe. Now look at this. Felicia drew this way back in 2015. Dug it out of an old crate of her art projects I had sitting in my closet. Put them side by side, and it was a dead ringer. No way around it. The swoop of that branch, the exact distance between the leaves, even how the stem hugged the middle. It was a carbon copy. That's just one piece, I shot back, my heart starting to hammer. Could be a fluke. Yeah, thought the same thing. Riley rapidly flipped through 15 more screens. 15 pieces of fancy jewelry. 15 exact matches from my missing kid's old sketchbook. Every last one was a straight-up ripoff. My blood turned to ice. It gets crazier, Riley whispered. She pinched the screen, blowing up the picture of the necklace. Peep the carving right on this edge. I hunched over the table. At first glance, it just looked like standard floral line work. But then she dragged her nail across the shadow of a leaf, and there it was, a microscopic F, baked right into the blank space. Felicia always pulled that move, Riley said under her breath, leaving a secret tag on her stuff. Every single piece had it. I actually grilled her once on why she didn't just slap her full name on the canvas. If folks actually gave a damn to look, they'd spot me, she told me. I just dead-ass stared at that piece of paper. My baby girl's signature was tucked right there in the open. 15 whole designs. Riley kept talking, her voice trembling like crazy. 15 pieces dropped over the last 3 years, every single one rocking Felicia's secret letter F. She ain't dead, Mr. Hayes. She's been busting her ass trying to tip us off. The whole coffee shop just tuned out. The screaming espresso machine, the background chatter, it all straight up melted into white noise. Where the hell is she at? I demanded. I couldn't tell you. Riley's eyes were welling up bad, holding back tears. But I'm pretty sure Cassandra knows. That's when I spilled my guts to her. I broke down how Gary heard somebody sobbing down in the cellar. How the grocery bills stacked up to $20,000 across 2 years. How Stephen caught wind of the vanished trust fund. A cool $500,000 bled dry over 8 years. I laid out Dorothy's stashed notes and the security tapes catching Cassandra sneaking bags down to the basement pitch black at midnight. Week after week, Riley just soaked it all in, without making a peep. By the time I wrapped up, she was bawling. She's locked down in that basement, Riley whispered. Ain't she? Yeah, I think so. For how long? I choked on the words. The math felt too insane to be real. 8 years. Riley threw both hands over her mouth. We just sat there frozen for a hot minute. Finally, she locked eyes with me. So, what's the move? My mind flashed to that hidden letter F. 15 times my little girl tried hollering at the outside world. 15 times everybody slept on her. No more playing around. I'm going to drag my baby back home, I told her. Riley reached over the table and squeezed my hand tight. Then put me in. Let me help. Later that night, once Cassandra turned in, I lay there wide awake until I clocked her bedroom door shutting and the quiet click of her lock. Straight up at 11:30 at night, I hopped out of bed and creeped my way downstairs to the cellar. I wasn't fishing for clues this time around. I was hunting for my own flesh and blood. I had my whole kit set up earlier while Cassandra was out flexing at the gallery, a tape measure, a heavy-duty flashlight, and my cell with Steven's digits ready to blast on speed dial. I had already hit him up at 9 o'clock and broke down exactly what I was about to pull off. He was trying to roll with me, but I shut that down. If I was tripping and there was nothing down there, I wasn't about to drag my boy into my crazy paranoia. But I wasn't tripping. I felt it in my gut now. And look, before I kick this door open, before I face what's been kept from me for 8 long years, let me ask you a real question. You ever been this damn close to the real truth, only to be scared out of your mind about what you're actually going to find? Sound off in the comments right now and let me know, would you bust this door wide open? And if this wild ride got you sweating, smash that subscribe button so you don't sleep on what goes down next. Quick heads up though, this joint mixes in some made-up details just to spin a good yarn and drop some knowledge. If you ain't cool with that vibe, you can bounce right now. For the rest of my real ones sticking around, let's go see what's hiding on the flip side. I took those basement stairs slow and steady, making every single step count, gripping that handrail for dear life at the bottom. I stopped dead in my tracks and kept my ears peeled. The crib was dead quiet. Cassandra's room was parked right over the living room, 2 whole floors up. She was always out cold when she slept. I had a window to make my move. I popped open the studio door and smacked the light switch. Those cheap fluorescent overheads buzzed on, blasting the whole spot with aggressive white light. The setup was exactly how I left it Tuesday morning. Cassandra's workstation dead in the middle, rough sketches tacked up on the board. That silver pendant Riley pulled up in those photos was just chilling on the counter, shining hard under the bulbs. I shut the door behind my back and whipped out the measuring tape. The outside wall of the basement hugged the entire backside of the crib. Going from the bottom step all the way to the far corner, I clocked 40 feet. Then I posted up inside the studio and ran the numbers again. Inside, from the door straight back to the wall, it only hit 25 feet. 15 feet straight up vanished. I switched gears to check the width. The whole basement spanned 30 feet side to side, but this studio was only 15 feet across. On the right, the wall was thick poured concrete, the heavy-duty bones of the house, but over on the left, just sheetrock. Freshly hung drywall, painted clean white, perfectly smooth without a single seam. You don't build a foundation out of damn sheetrock. I slapped my palm flat against it. Felt ice cold. I rapped on it real gentle with my knuckles. The echo that bounced back was totally hollow, nothing but dead air. There was a whole secret spot behind this wall, 15 feet deep, 12 feet across, 180 square feet total. More than enough space to keep somebody caged. I ran the beam of my flashlight across the drywall, hunting for a crack, a hinge, any kind of giveaway for a door. Didn't spot Jack at first. The wall looked flawless, painted tight from end to end. But then the light flashed on something tucked near the corner. A massive bookshelf standing 6 feet tall, jammed completely flush against the wall. I crept up on it, taking my sweet time. The racks were packed with design manuals, guides on jewelry tricks, metalwork stuff, and a handful of thick art history joints. Thing looked heavy as hell, like it was bolted down forever. I put some shoulder into it. The beast didn't even flinch. I got down low, squatting on my heels, and flashed the beam straight at the bottom edge. Barely poking out under the bottom rack were these 4 little rubber casters, the kind you'd slap on a heavy-duty dolly. Except these bad boys weren't moving an inch. Some heavy metal pins had them dead-bolted in place. Right next to the front left wheel, tucked tight against the wood framing, sat a slick little digital keypad, built for a 4-digit pin, complete with a tiny LED indicator flashing blood red. I just locked eyes with the damn thing while my heart went completely crazy, pounding against my eardrums. My own kid, Cassandra, had rigged up a secret lock, a literal passcode. My brain instantly flashed back to those sketchy receipts. That $100,000 wire to J. Morrison Construction for a basement job that never pulled a single city permit, never saw an inspector, and only existed inside Stephen's private files. That cash didn't bankroll an art studio, it bought a literal dungeon. I rubbed my sweaty hands down my denim and punched in the first string of numbers my brain fed me. 1992. The year Cassandra came into the world. The little light flashed red. Dead wrong. Next up was 1997. Felicia's birth year. Denied again. Then 2006. The year we lost Margaret. Still red. I slumped back on my heels, glaring at the buttons. What the hell would Cassandra actually pick? What sick milestone meant enough to lock her own flesh and blood away in the dark? Then it hit me like a freight train. 2016. The year Felicia vanished off the face of the earth. I typed out the numbers, my fingers shaking. The light flipped to green. A quiet snap echoed deep inside the bookcase, dropping the locking pins. The whole piece of furniture glided forward about an inch, slick as butter. I grabbed the lip of the wood and yanked. It shifted out of the way with zero effort, exposing a tight sliver of space in the drywall. Jammed right into the studs was a heavy-duty, gray steel door rocking an exterior deadbolt. The bolt wasn't thrown. I froze in my tracks, my fingers trembling just inches from the handle, completely paralyzed. My lungs felt like they were in a vice grip, and the room started going blurry. Creeping through the cracks of that heavy metal, I picked up the sound of someone taking quick, shallow breaths. There was an actual human being in there. I leaned right in, smashing my ear flat against the freezing steel. The gasps were super faint and calculated, like whoever was trapped on the other side was terrified of making noise. Felicia. I barely mouthed the word. The breathing instantly cut out. 5 seconds of pure, dead silence. Then came a noise so soft I almost didn't catch it, a quick gasp for air. A choked-back cry got stuck in someone's throat, followed by a voice, frail, raspy, and shaking to its core. Dad. My legs just gave out. I caught myself on the jamb, my whole arm vibrating as I clutched the doorknob. Felicia. My tone shattered completely. Baby girl. Is it really you? A brutal cry ripped through the steel barrier. Tiny, crushed, and carrying 8 straight years of absolute hell. Dad. She completely lost it, bawling her eyes out. Dad, you finally showed up. I knew it. I just knew you'd find me. I lunged for the lock, about to kick the damn thing wide open, but then a sound stopped me dead. Heavy boots, dragging across the floorboards right above my head. Creeping, steady steps heading straight for the basement stairs. Cassandra was up, my hand turned to stone right on the latch. If I cracked this open and she caught me down here, she'd spin some insane bullshit. She'd flip the whole narrative on its head. She'd get the cops out here claiming I smashed my way into her workspace, call me a crazy old man who lost his grip on reality. I couldn't gamble with that. Hell no. Not when I was inches from the finish line. I leaned heavy, resting my forehead directly on the cold door. Felicia, I hissed through the crack, pure panic in my chest. I gotta get back up. I'm getting the cops on the horn right this second. I'm pulling you out of this hole. I swear to God. Please, she whimpered. So quiet it broke me. Please don't ditch me down here again. I'm not, I choked out, waterfalls pouring down my cheeks. I'm not going anywhere. Just stepping to the top of the stairs to make the call. You got that? You're coming home tonight. She couldn't even form words anymore, just wept. My hands were violently shaking as I yanked my cell from my pocket and punched in 911. Dispatch picked up before the second ring even finished. 911. State your emergency. Listen to me. My name's Robert. I'm standing at 2847 Ashford Lane, over in Minneapolis. It's my little girl. She's been caged up in this basement for 8 freaking years. She's breathing. I need badges at this location. Right damn now. Sir, verify that address for me? 2847 Ashford Lane, for God's sake. She's locked in some kind of vault. I'm talking to her right now. She's alive. Units are rolling hot, sir. Do not hang up this phone. I just gave a shaky nod to nobody. Even knowing she couldn't spot me, I kept my palm glued to that heavy metal. Inside that hole, Felicia had dropped into dead silence again. Felicia, I pushed the words out. I'm right here. She breathed back. The cavalry's on the way. Okay. I shut my eyes tight and threw my entire body weight against the steel, keeping my hand totally flat on the freeze like I could somehow phase through the material and hold her. Dad, she finally muttered, after a long beat. Yeah, kiddo, I breathed out. You finally found me, she whimpered. My throat closed up tight. I couldn't form a single word. I just bobbed my head, crying my eyes out. gripping that door like it was the only thing keeping us tethered to the earth. I was still posted up in the dark, hand anchored to the steel, when the front doorbell suddenly started chiming from the main floor. First thing my brain screamed was, "No way in hell the cops drove that fast." The second realization hit me way harder. Cassandra is up. Man. When I booked it up those steps and checked the glass, there was Brandon posted up on my porch looking like he just saw a ghost. I snatched that door wide open. "Yo, Derek, what the hell are you doing on my stoop?" Dude didn't even lock eyes with me, just kept scanning the crib like he was paranoid. He looked completely strung out, way skinnier than back in the day, gripping this beat-up shoulder bag with hands that wouldn't stop twitching. "Word on the street is you've been talking to a suit," he mumbled, his tone sounding real desperate. "Folks say you've been poking around, Mr. Hayes. I gotta spill the whole truth before the cops roll up. I'm begging you." Right then, it hit my ears, that high-pitched scream of squad cars creeping closer from blocks away. Derek caught the sound too. "I got maybe 10 minutes tops," he breathed out. "Probably less than that. Just hear me out, please." I yanked him by the jacket into the hallway and slammed the door shut. He practically folded into the recliner in my front room, shaking like a leaf in a hurricane. I just towered over the guy, knuckles tight, my gut screaming to toss him right back out on the curb. But I held back. I had to get the rundown. 8 years back, Derek kicked off, his voice cracking hard. "I messed up worse than you could ever imagine. Cassandra hit my line, wanting a favor. Played it off like some joke, saying we were just gonna put Felicia in her place and humble her a bit. And like a total fool, I bought the whole story." "What exactly did you pull?" I pressed, dropping my tone to ice. Derek lifted his head, eyes looking completely bloodshot. "I was in the hole for $45,000 with some heavy hitters over card games. Cassandra caught wind of my mess. Told me if I wrote out this scheme with her, she'd wipe the slate clean. I kept my mouth shut, letting him dig his own grave. The whole gig was setting up a phony hit and run." Derek pushed on, "just to rattle Felicia's cage, make her believe she caught a body with her ride. Cass swore it was a one-night thing, that we'd bring her back to reality the very next morning. Except we totally bailed on that." He dug into his bag, yanked out a flash drive, and dropped it dead center on the glass table. "Everything's backed up right there. Audio drops, text logs, all the money moves. Plus a dead-to-rights clip of Cassandra owning up to faking the whole crash. Even got my own guilty plea on it. The whole 9 yards. I was deadlocked on that tiny piece of plastic, my own hands starting to vibrate. Run down exactly what went down that night," I demanded. Derek sucked in a ragged breath. I scooped up a busted Honda Civic rental, then hit a party store for a crash dummy and a couple bottles of theatrical blood. Cassandra had the whole board already set. She was hitting Felicia's line from a throwaway piece, playing the role of a homie needing help, begging her to roll out to Oakwood Avenue. "It's completely off the grid, no street cams, dead quiet." My stomach did a flip. "Felicia cruised through there right around midnight," he went on. "I had the dummy laid out on the asphalt. She clipped it. Lost her damn mind. Barely 60 seconds later, Cass rolls up on the scene claiming my girl just caught a homicide charge. Gave the fake victim a whole identity, Nathan. Right on cue, I stroll up playing the part of an off-the-clock badge. I wrote down her fake confession, had her believing she was getting locked up for a dime, and then I cut him off, my voice barely scratching my throat. Then Cassandra dragged her back to this spot, swearing she'd stash her away until the heat died down. Only the heat never cooled, 'cause Nathan didn't even exist. No detectives, no case files. A total hustle. Derek's voice straight up shattered. By sunrise, Cassandra flipped the script. Started saying Felicia had too much juice in her work to just let walk, claiming her fashion blueprints could have us both living large. She swore it would only run for a couple of months. I gritted my teeth. It's been 8 damn years. I know. Derek bawled, hiding his face in his palms. I know. Then he unloaded the rest of the baggage. How Cassandra chipped away at his debts in tiny chunks. $500 one week, $1,000 the next, never clearing the board, just keeping him on a tight leash. The way she boxed him into a corner. promising that if he ever snitched, he'd be rotting in a cell right beside her. How she totally cut his ties to his blood, brainwashing him into thinking they were riding this out as partners. She messed with my head, got me thinking we were actually keeping Felicia safe, he mumbled, sounding dead inside, saying if word got out, Felicia would do hard time for dropping a body. It sounds completely batshit now, but back then, I bought the lie. 3 years back, Derek finally started second-guessing the game. He ran a background check on the name Nathan and hit a brick wall. He caught a glimpse of my baby girl through a sliver of the cellar door, all skin and bones, eyes sunk back in her skull, hair looking like a wrecked bird's nest. The guilt practically ate him alive. So he started rolling tape on the low, getting Cass on audio, bragging about the job, making her threats, plotting her next moves. He threw all the receipts on that thumb drive and stashed it deep in a rental unit across the city. Just last week, Derek added, I caught Cassandra chilling at a coffee joint. She was kicking it with a buyer, laughing it up like she didn't have a care in the world, and it hit me this chick is never gonna quit. She'll keep Felicia locked in that hole until she drops, unless somebody pulls her card. Those sirens were screaming now, practically on the block. Derek got on his feet. I'm throwing myself to the wolves tonight, singing like a bird to the precinct. I'll take whatever bid the judge throws at me. But please, Mr. Hayes, get Felicia out of there. Don't let me being a punk ruin whatever she's got left of her life. I sized up this frail, shattered dude who played a hand in stealing 8 years of my daughter's freedom. My chest was just a mess of pure fury, sick pity, and heavy disgust. I grabbed the drive anyway. You're finally making the right play, I told him, keeping it low. That carries some weight. Derek just hung his head. It doesn't buy back 8 years. The street outside lit up in a frantic pulse of cherry red and blue as a black and white rolled up to the curb. Derek caught the glare, too. He just sucked in a massive breath and made his way to the front door. He didn't even bother looking back at me when he muttered, Tell Felicia I screwed up. Tell her I'm sorry. 20 minutes after Derek took that perp walk straight into the back of a squad car, Detective Sandra was posted up in my basement, deadlocked on the heavy steel door hidden behind the bookcase. Mr. Hayes, she murmured, her tone deadly serious. You gotta brace yourself for whatever nightmare is waiting for us on the other side. I gave her a stiff nod, but her words were just white noise. I was already steeled for this. I'd been agonizing over this moment for 8 brutal years. Bennett was a seasoned pro, pushing mid-40s, with a gaze that missed absolutely nothing and a voice that never cracked. Her backup, Officer Kevin, hovered right next to her, a rookie in his early 30s, keeping a twitchy grip on his comms. A couple more beat cops locked down the studio entrance, looking like they were headed to a funeral. I dragged the whole squad down to the cellar the second they rolled up. I pointed out the fake shelving, the digital lock, the reinforced steel, and that's exactly when Cassandra finally woke up. She came tearing down the staircase in her sleepwear, looking like a total wreck with wild hair and panicked eyes. Pops, what the hell is happening? Why are the cops in our house? Bennett pivoted instantly to shut her down. Miss Hayes, we're holding a judge's sign-off to toss this place. We've got rock-solid intel about someone being held against their will. Every drop of blood vanished from Cassandra's face. Are you out of your mind? There's literally nothing down here but my workspace. Then you shouldn't sweat us taking a peek. Torres fired back. Cassandra's jaw locked up tight. I want my attorney. Law up all you want. That's your call. Bennett shot back. But we are breaching this room right now. Torres stepped right up to the electronic lock. I had already tipped them off to the passcode 2016. He punched the digits in deliberately, and the indicator light flashed a bright green. With a muted pop, the bookcase drifted aside. Past it, that heavy metal door was already cracked open. I had popped the latch a while ago when I was talking to Felicia through the thick steel. Bennett snapped on a pair of black latex gloves and shoved the barrier wide open. The stench slammed into us like a freight train. It was a suffocating mix of bleach, rot, and that heavy, sour funk of a tomb where someone had been breathing recycled air for way too long. Bennett swept her heavy-duty flashlight through the pitch-black space. The cage couldn't have been more than 15 by 12 feet. Pushed up against the left wall, sat a pathetic, bare-bones cot with a ratty blanket. Off to the right, a cheap desk was littered with scattered sketch paper and a busted lamp. Tucked in the far corner was a grim setup, a camp toilet, a miniature basin, and some totally hacked-together pipes. But the walls. They were completely plastered with hand-drawn sketches. Hundreds of them were stapled, taped, and glued over every single square inch. Scenery, wildlife, forests, and portraits. But mainly, just one face drawn obsessively mine. And there, huddled on the mattress, shielding her face from the blinding flashlight beam, was a girl. She was skin and bones, horrifyingly malnourished. Greasy, matted brown hair fell in chaotic waves down her back. Her skin had a ghostly, see-through pallor to it, but my heart dropped into my stomach. God forgive me. I knew exactly who she was. Bennett crossed the threshold first, her whole demeanor softening. "Hey there," she coaxed. "I'm Detective Bennett. You're completely safe now. We're just here to get you out." The girl cautiously dropped her guard, wincing as her eyes adjusted to the glare. She frantically checked the entryway, clocking the uniforms and the badges until her gaze finally locked onto mine. My knees turned to jelly as I stumbled forward. It was my baby. It was Felicia. 8 brutal years in a box had wrecked her. She was barely 19 the last time we hugged, vibrant, glowing, with the whole world ahead of her. Now, at 27, she couldn't have weighed more than 95 pounds. Her face was gaunt, cheekbones slicing through her skin, and her eyes were buried in deep, bruised hollows. But it was undeniably her, my little girl. "Pop," she rasped. The words completely failed me. I just rushed the bed, collapsed onto the concrete floor, and crushed her in my arms. Holding her felt like clutching a bundle of dry twigs. "Felicia," I sobbed into her hair. "Jesus, baby girl, I'm so damn sorry. I failed you," while she just held on for dear life, shaking like a leaf. "You actually came," she cried, her voice totally shredded. "I never gave up on you. I sketched your face every single day, just knowing you would bust me out of here eventually." I squeezed her even closer, bawling my eyes out against her frail shoulder. I completely lost it. It felt like the wind got knocked out of me. All I could do was anchor her to me. Right behind my back, Bennett had to face the wall to stealthily wipe a tear off her cheek. Out in the corridor, Cassandra was paralyzed, looking like she'd seen a ghost. Her jaw hung wide open, but she was completely dead silent. EMTs rushed the basement 10 minutes later with a gurney. Felicia didn't have the strength to take a single step. Sitting in that cell for years had basically eaten away all her leg muscle. She was trembling uncontrollably, just trying to get on her feet. Bennett got down on eye level with her. "Felicia, we've got to get you checked out at the ER, all right?" Felicia gave a tiny nod, but she kept her eyes glued to mine. "Pops, please don't let me go." I squeezed her icy hand. "I am absolutely not leaving your side, kiddo. I'm riding right with you, every inch of the way." The medics carefully scooped her up, got her strapped to the rig, and started wheeling her out of that hellhole. Pushing through the main studio, Felicia's eyes finally locked onto her sister. Cassandra was backed up against the drywall, hugging her own ribs, tears flooding down her face. Felicia just bored holes into her for what felt like an eternity. Then, barely above a whisper, she dropped the bomb. "Why, Cassie? How could you do this to me?" Cassandra couldn't even put up a fight. She just stared at the concrete and bawled her eyes out. Torres, the uniform on scene, stepped up and ripped his steel bracelets right off his belt. "Vanessa, you're getting bagged for unlawful confinement, kidnapping, and conspiracy. You got the right to keep your trap shut." The crazy lady didn't even put up a fight, just took the metal rings and walked her ass right up those basement steps. Total dead silence from her. I just trailed right behind my girl Felicia to the rig, jumping in the back the second the medics strapped her down. Soon as those heavy back doors slammed, I stared out at that brick joint, the same damn spot I'd been crashing at for 10 solid years. Totally clueless, my own flesh and blood was locked in a hellhole right under my sneakers. Then Felicia gripped my fingers tight. "Pops." I stared down at her bruised face. She had that 1,000-yard stare, looking like a ghost, but I'd know those eyes anywhere. You actually tracked me down? She breathed out. I just nodded, bawling like a baby. Yeah, kiddo, I got you. Did you ever give up on me? Man, that hit me way harder than a right hook to the ribs. Real talk? I totally had. I'd thrown in the towel a long time back. I'd completely lost the faith and mourned her as dead. But no way in hell could I drop that bomb on her. Not today. Not ever. So I spit a flat-out lie. I was always hunting for you. She just shut her eyelids, cracked this tiny little grin, and squeezed my palm one more time. The rig peeled off the block, cherries popping but keeping the noise killed. I clung to my baby girl's hand, my brain spinning on the fact that she was finally back. But is she gonna give me a pass for taking 8 whole years to bust her out? Later, kicking it under those ugly buzzing white lights in the ER room, Felicia started spilling the tea about the night it all went left. Detective Bennett was chilling next to me, scratching down every word, while the medical staff kept an eye on my girl's heart rate. My kid's voice was barely a whisper, stuttering like putting the raw facts out in the air was going to drag her right back into hell. The whole joint reeked of bleach and medical wrap. Heart monitors kept ticking, and they had a line hooked up pushing juice straight into her veins. The head doc had already run down the rough breakdown of the damage. Starved down to the bone, 0 sunlight vitamins, and muscles wasted to nothing. She was looking at weeks, maybe months of hardcore rehab, but right now, she had to get this off her chest. I kept my grip on her. The detective posted up closer, hitting record on her device. Listen, Felicia, she started, keeping it super mellow. I get that this is hell to talk about, but we gotta piece together what went down 8 years back. Walk me through that evening, all right? Felicia sucked in a ragged gasp. It was March 15th, 2016. I was just 19. My phone buzzed with a voicemail right around 11:45 at night. She kept her gaze deadlocked on the ceiling tiles. It came from Lauren. Or, you know, I figured it was her at the time. We were tight back in the day, my main girl. The voicemail said, Felicia, I'm in trouble. Come hit up Riverside Park right now. It's a total emergency. I shot a quick look over at Bennett. The cop jotted some chicken scratch down on her pad. I didn't even hesitate. Felicia kept going. Sophie sounded terrified, so I snatched my keys and peeled out. I was rolling in this white Toyota Corolla, cruising straight down Oakwood Avenue. That's the quickest route to the green space. The whole block was pitch black. No lamps, not a single car out there. Her voice shrank down to a total ghost whisper. And that's when I spotted him. Spotted who? The detective pressed. Some dude. He just darted right out into the asphalt. I stomped the brakes hard, but there was this sickening boom. I bailed out of my ride and... She choked up. There was a guy sprawled out on the concrete, leaking red all over the street. I completely lost my mind. I was legit seconds away from dialing 911, and then Cassandra just rolled up on the spot. I froze cold. Wait, Cassandra was at the scene? Felicia nodded, waterworks just flooding her face. She popped out like a ghost. She started screaming, Felicia, holy hell, what did you just do? I swore I never even saw the guy. Like he just glitched into the street. I told her I was getting a medic on the horn, but she shut that down real quick. What were her exact words? Bennett probed. She told me calling the cops meant I was getting locked in a cage. Said I just caught a vehicular manslaughter charge, looking at 20 hard years. Her hands were shaking like a leaf. She walked up on the dude, declared him flat out deceased right there. She kept saying it was game over for him. Nothing left to do. Told me to bounce, go straight to the crib, and let her clean up the mess. I was ready to puke. And you bought that line of bull? My brain was totally fried. Pops! I couldn't process a single thing. I put my total faith in her. When the sun came up, Felicia explained. Cassandra shoved this crazy news story in my face. Some raggedy internet page I'd never seen. Said a guy got killed in a hit and run down on Oakwood. It had the dude's mugshot right there. Claimed he was Nathan, 42 years old, working as a civil engineer. Said he left behind a wife and 2 little ones. Her voice shattered. I really thought I iced a family man. I squeezed her hand tight. You didn't take nobody's life, Felicia. Yeah, my head knows that today, she whispered back. But for 8 solid years, I was living with that blood on my hands. The detective got right up in the mix. So what's the move after she flashes that fake news? Cassandra told me I had to go totally underground. She claimed it was just temporary, laying low till she could scheme up a fix. And that's when Derek rolled up to the spot. You mean Brandon? Felicia bobbed her head. He was rocking full PD blues. Acted like he was clocking in to grab my official story. He started grilling me hard what hour I was behind the wheel, if I'd been throwing back shots. I swore I was sober, but he threw some lab test threat in my face, saying the talk screens wouldn't lie. Told me I was staring down the barrel of 15 to 25 years behind bars. She looked my way, eyes completely dead inside. I was shook to my core, Dad. I had zero clue how to play it. And Cassandra swore she was going to hire me some heavy-hitter lawyer to beat the case. Cassie swore I only had to lay low in that cellar until the heat died down. I kept my voice barely above a whisper. Except, it didn't end up being just a couple of sunrises, did it? Hell no, Felicia choked out. Try 8 whole years. Across the table, Bennett tossed her ballpoint down. Look, kid, sit tight for a sec while I verify some intel, the cop muttered, dipping out into the corridor with her cell pressed to her ear. Muffled, frantic murmurs bled through the drywall. 5 minutes dragged by before she pushed back through that door, rocking a straight-up poker face. All right, listen up, both of you, Bennett started. I just ran the system for your ghost, Nathan. 42. Pushing blueprints for a living. Twin Cities area, circa 2016. Felicia's shoulders locked up tight as steel. Not a single casualty matching that ID exists in the Metro database for 2016. So I cast a wider net over the border into Wisconsin and Iowa. The detective took a heavy breath. Got a hit. Same name. Same 42-year-old engineer. He's kicking it over in Madison. Felicia's eyes bugged out. Wait, kicking it? He's breathing, kid. The guy's alive. Dude hasn't even set foot in the cities, let alone wrecked his ride here. You could hear a pin drop in that joint, save for the steady hum of the precinct tech. Bennett whipped out her smartphone. I'm dialing his ass up right now. You need to catch this straight from the horse's mouth. She punched the digits and slapped it on speaker. 3 rings later, some dude with gravel in his throat picked up. Yo, Mr. Whitmore? Detective Sandra here, Twin Cities Police Department. Gotta pick your brain about a situation back in 2016. 2016? The guy sounded tripped out. My bad, officer, but I ain't got a clue what you're on about. Did you catch a bumper on Oakwood Avenue up here on March 15th, 2016? Never been in a smash-up, lady. Like I tell folks, I ain't ever crossed into the cities. Born and raised in Madison. Just for the record, you're alive and kicking, right, buddy? The guy chuckled, sounding sketched out and totally thrown off. Last time I checked my pulse. Yeah. What kind of gag is this? Felicia slammed her palm over her lips as a raw, ugly wail ripped from her chest. He made it. The guy never flatlined. I snatched her up tight against my chest. It was all BS, babe. Every last word of it. Bennett killed the connection. You ain't no killer, kid. There wasn't even a body. Your psycho sister orchestrated the whole damn charade. She smashed her face into my collarbone and just completely broke down. 8 freaking years, she gasped out. That witch let me carry a body count in my head for 8 solid years. Fast forward to the morning after, once the docs knocked Felicia out with some meds for a massive reset. Bennett hit my line and dragged me back down to the precinct. Look, Hayes, we've been tearing through the paperwork, she'd told me on the wire, and we hit the jackpot. Stuff that proves your sister-in-law didn't just pull this scam out of thin air. I peeled out toward the Twin Cities headquarters, a hulking 4-story concrete block smack in the middle of downtown, and trailed her boots up to a second-floor sit-down room. The main desk was absolutely buried under manila folders, Polaroids, and rap sheets. Officer Torres was chilling in the corner next to some 50-something guy wearing thick frames. He threw up a hand. claiming to be Doc Gerald, their handwriting guru. We ran the plates on your girl's ride. Bennett dropped the bomb with zero sugarcoating. That 2012 Toyota, rocking the ivory Minnesota tags. Man, the paper trail is straight up diabolical. She fanned a trio of sheets across the wood. The doc hunched over, tapping the lead page. Right here's the pink slip for a 2012. Corolla tags read Alpha Bravo. Charlie 4729, listed under Maya. He shoved the next paper into my view. Now peep this sales receipt from March 28th, 2016. Exactly 13 days past the fake hit and run. The wheels got fenced to an Iowa chop shop down in Des Moines for $3,500, straight cash. And check the bottom line. He thumped the paper. Signed by the seller. Maya. I locked onto the ink. It dead-ass mirrored my girl's script. The dramatic swoop on the F. The aggressive lean of the H. Then the doc slapped a third piece of paper next to the transaction record. It was a scan of her state ID, paired up with some dusty rental lease from her university days. Now this is the real deal, he declared. Get up in there and look. He tossed me a jeweler's loop. I hovered over the phony sales contract, straining my eyes through the glass. Didn't clock anything weird initially, but then it hit me. Sketchy little stutters in the ink flow. Microscopic stabs where the ballpoint had stalled out, lifted, and dropped back down. The lines weren't smooth like a natural wrist flick. They were traced. Total counterfeit job, the doc confirmed. Top-tier fake. But under the scope, you catch the dead zone spots where the scammer had to stop. Eyeball the genuine article, and keep drawing. Your girl didn't pen this. I dropped the glass, my fingers rattling like crazy. Cassie did it. Bennett gave a grim nod. We already rattled the cage at the Des Moines lot. They backed it up. Some chick in her mid-20s offloaded the whip for cold, hard cash. We lucked out. They hoarded the surveillance tapes from 2016. She smashed a key on her rig. Blurry security cam footage hijacked the monitor. Right there, strutting onto the showroom floor, was a dead giveaway. Chick had her ball cap yanked down tight, hiding behind massive shades and a surgical mask. The screen stamped March 28, 2016, 2:47 p.m. I couldn't catch her face, but man, I knew that frame. The strut, that whole vibe was unmistakable. It was my own flesh and blood, Cassandra. She scribbled on the docs, snatched a fat stack of bills, and dipped. The whole deal went down in exactly 8 minutes. Officer Torres chimed in, saying they ran the tags with the DMV. Turns out, Felicia never called it in stolen, and neither did you. I just gave a slow, heavy nod, all because Cassie swore up and down her sister packed up the ride and bounced. Claimed Felicia headed out to Cali for a fresh start. And you bought that garbage? Detective Bennett asked, keeping her tone low. Hook, line, and sinker? I muttered, feeling dead inside. Thought my girl just ran off. Dr. Pierce let out a rough cough. Mr. Hayes, we got one more hit. Pulled a partial print right off that bill of sale, tucked right under the fake signature. It belongs to Cassie. Chick tried wiping it down, but she slipped up and left a trace. I just glared at that paper. My own kid plotted this whole nightmare before the wreck even went down. She already knew she was dumping that ride. That's exactly what we're putting together, Bennett replied. The detective laid it out straight. Flipping the whip in under 2 weeks meant she was scrubbing every last clue that Felicia was anywhere near town. None of this was a spur-of-the-moment thing, Mr. Hayes. It was totally premeditated. I dropped hard into the chair, legs feeling like pure jelly. Cassie knew damn well what she was pulling. Faked the crash, threw her own sister down in the cellar, fenced her wheels, and set the whole thing up to look like a runaway gig. Spot on, Bennett confirmed. My mind drifted back to those dark days, right after Felicia vanished into thin air. Cassie played the part perfectly, shedding fake tears, looking all stressed out, even walking right beside me to file the missing persons report with the cops, hitting up all her sister's homies, begging for info, all straight-up lies. Man, she looked me in the eye and said, Felicia just needed breathing room. She promised me she'd reach out when the time was right. I choked out, fighting back tears, and I ate up every single word. 8 long years. I fell for that lie. The detective pulled up a chair right in my face. Mr. Hayes, Cassie is your blood. You gave her your trust. That ain't being blind, man, that's love. And she played you for a fool. I raised my head to look her in the eyes. Who the hell does something this twisted to their own flesh and blood? She stayed quiet, knowing damn well no answer in the world would ever make it right. Come the weekend. Riley hit my line, dropping a name, Marcus Grant, some heavy-hitting sound forensics wizard. Mr. Hayes, she said through the receiver. I think I finally figured out how Cassie played everyone into thinking Felicia was still alive and kicking after she dropped off the map. You're gonna trip out when you hear this. That Monday afternoon, I rolled up to Riley's spot, a super slick, glassed-out digital art studio right in the heart of downtown Minneapolis. The meeting room was tight, completely decked out with flat screens and heavy sound gear. Riley was chilling across the table with her laptop flipped open, sitting next to a dude in his mid-30s rocking dirty blonde hair and a dead serious gaze. Mr. Hayes, meet Marcus Grant, Riley introduced. Dude used to run audio forensics for the feds over at the FBI. Marcus hit me with a rock-solid handshake. Miss Summers slid me a few voicemails she got a few years back. Recordings she swore were from your daughter, Felicia. She hired me to break 'em down. And man, what I dug up is straight up wild. He double-clicked a folder on his rig and fired up the first track. A voice blasted through the speakers. Gentle, super familiar, and crazy realistic. Riley, it's me. I'm good. Just need to step away for a minute. Don't trip. I'll hit your line when I'm ready. Love ya. I locked up tight. That's my Felicia. Riley looked up, her eyes totally bloodshot. That's exactly what I thought, man. Marcus queued up the second cut. Riley, I'm holding up. Out in a brand new spot. Getting a fresh start. Don't come looking for me, all right? I just need this room to breathe. Peace out. Then he dropped track 3. The very same clip pushed to my cell back in August 2017. Pops, I love you. I'm safe and sound. Just gotta sort my head out solo. I'll swing back home one day. Hope you get it. My chest got incredibly tight. I'd looped that exact voicemail dozens of times, holding onto it like a lifeline. It was my golden ticket proving my girl was still breathing, doing okay, and that she'd bounced on her own terms. How in God's name is that not her? I gasped. Marcus leaned right over the table. 'Cause you ain't listening to a human being, Mr. Hayes. Check this out. He looped that first joint right back. This time around, he pulled up some crazy sound wave graphics on the monitor, a bunch of jagged spikes and dips charting out the audio. Bright red blips flashed all over the graph at totally random spots. These red flags right here, they prove this whole thing was cooked up by a machine, Marcus explained. Somebody used deepfake AI software to rip her exact voice. I was just staring at his screen, mind blown. AI? Back in 2016? Yeah, man, Marcus nodded. That cloning tech was just hitting the streets around 2015 and 2016. It wasn't anywhere near the beast it is today, but it packed enough punch to straight up con anyone who actually knew the person, especially when you squeeze it through a busted cell phone speaker or a sketchy voicemail. He flipped to another tab. To fake a voice, all you really need is like 5 to 10 minutes of crystal clear recordings. The rig breaks down the pitch, the flow, the swagger, and the whole way they talk, spits out audio that's a dead ringer for the real person. Riley finally broke the silence. I dug through Cassie's hard drive, checking out home movies from old cookouts and birthday bashes. She had hours of Felicia talking banked up. Marcus pulled up a split screen. On the left, the audio waves from that voicemail. On the right, a clip from a family dinner where my baby girl was actually talking. The pitch and rhythm are a flawless match, Marcus pointed out. But check this out. He blew up a chunk of the track. You catch these tiny gaps? They hang just a hair longer than how a real person talks. We are talking fractions of a second, but it happens the exact same way every single time. And right here, he tapped the monitor. The breathing is totally out of pocket. A living, breathing human takes in air at normal spots. This recording does not. He ran the track back, pointing out the hiccups. That is when it finally hit me. Microscopic stammers you'd usually completely miss. An inhale dragging half a beat behind. Words sliding together, way too slick. To regular folks on the street, this passes as legit, Marcus explained. But strip it down, and it is a complete fake. I slumped deep into my seat, my brain doing backflips. You are seriously telling me that every single call I thought was my little girl was straight up bogus? I pulled apart 5 drops sent over 3 years, Marcus replied. Every single one is AI-generated garbage. Riley swiped at her tears. I completely bought it, Mr. Hayes. Every ping on my phone from her, I figured she was out there surviving. I called off the hunt because I thought she just needed space. I shot Marcus a hard look. How deep in the tech do you gotta be to pull a stunt like this? Back in 2016? Just the bare basics. You had a couple raggedy apps and websites running voice cloning software. Anybody with a laptop and some decent sound bites could pull it off. He held up a hand. But this level of dirty work? Dropping breadcrumbs over 3 long years? Picking the exact right moments? Making absolutely sure nobody caught on to the lie. That takes some heavy calculating. Whoever ran this game knew their lane inside and out. My mind raced back. Cassie always had a freakish knack for computers. She knocked out a year of computer science in undergrad before pivoting to jewelry design. Hell, she set up my whole cell phone. She brought Riley's dead computer back to life once. She definitely had the know-how, I muttered. And she had a reason. Riley leaned in close. Mr. Hayes, it gets way worse. I dug deep into Cassie's old email folders. Detective Bennett hooked me up with the login for the case. I found credit card receipts for some voice mod site called VoiceForge. She bought the monthly plan in April 2016, literally 4 weeks after Felicia vanished. Marcus nodded slowly. VoiceForge was a pioneer platform for this kind of hustle. They got shut down a while back. But in 2016, it was the absolute easiest way to rip somebody's vocal cords. I dead stared at the monitor, locked on those red flags speckling the audio track like little drops of blood. Marcus let the file rip one last time, shining a light on those microscopic screw-ups in the sound wave. Dead air that dragged fractions of a second too long. Lungfuls of air dropped in at the wrong damn times. This ain't your kid, Mr. Hayes. He dropped the bomb softly. This is pure code. I kept glaring at the monitor, at those red dots butchering the soundtrack like tiny stab wounds. For 3 brutal years, I hung onto those voicemails like a damn lifeline. I thanked God my baby was breathing. Thanked God she was safe. Peace of mind knowing she walked out on her own terms. I called off the dogs because I figured she was finally running her own life. But the whole time, it was just Cassie posted up in her workspace, dumping sound bites, tapping send, and watching me swallow her sick fantasy. Come Tuesday morning, Detective Bennett hit my line. We bagged the guy who framed out that hidden room, Mr. Hayes, she barked. You could hear the absolute fury choking her throat. Goes by Travis, out of Des Moines, Iowa. He touched down at dawn to play ball with the squad. You want to hear him sing? 60 minutes later, I am parked behind the 2-way glass down at the precinct, eyeing this middle-aged, working stiff, sweating bullets in the hot seat. Officer Torres was posted up right next to me, arms folded tight. That is the mark, he muttered. Travis, our $100,000 handyman. I just glared through the glass. Morrison was pushing his early 50s, silver creeping into his hair, face beat up by the sun, rocking a washed-out flannel, gripping a cheap styrofoam coffee cup so hard his knuckles were pure chalk. Bennett took the chair across from him, sliding a digital recorder to the center of the metal table. Mr. Morrison, she started. Appreciate you stepping up on your own dime. Spill the details on the gig you ran for Cassie Hayes back in 2016. Jake gave a heavy nod. Yes, ma'am. I've been hauling this ugly baggage around for 8 long years. Spring of 2016. Jake croaked out, sounding like rough sandpaper. I caught a hit off Craigslist. Some ghost wanted an out-of-town builder, specifically demanding nobody local to Minnesota. The gig wasn't your everyday hustle. Bennett leaned in, her eyes narrowing. Define, not every day. Man. The guy gulped hard, his Adam's apple bobbing. This chick asked for a secret spot down in the cellar, dead silent, and locked strictly from the outside. Spun me some story about a high-end wine vault. Claimed she was obsessed with complete privacy and keeping the climate locked down tight. She was dead set on that exterior deadbolt. Played the sympathy card, said her old man had dementia. Kept wandering off, and she had to protect him from wrecking her expensive bottles. My gut did a whole flip. Then she dropped $15,000 in cold, hard cash on the barrelhead. Under the table, no permits. Totally off of books. Catch was, I could only swing the hammer when the man of the house was gone. Told me he flew planes, always on the road, and she was trying to blindside him with this grand gift. The detective practically jumped across the table. And none of that set off any damn alarm bells for you? Jake looked like he was about to shatter. Hell yeah, it did. But my old lady, man, she had stage 4 cancer. We were drowning in hospital debt. Just drowning. $15,000, straight cash. Uncle Sam out of the picture. I bit my tongue when I should have been screaming. His trembling fingers let go of the styrofoam cup. I fed myself this lie that it was just some wealthy chick's twisted little hobby. A bougie wine stash. I swallowed that pill because I had to. Break down the build for me, Bennett ordered. Jake sucked in a ragged breath. Took 3 weeks flat. The husband, Hayes, was supposedly doing some massive flight tour over in Europe. Cassandra handed me the keys. I slapped up a fake sheetrock barrier to carve out a blind spot in the back. Maybe 15 by 12 feet. My brain instantly crunched those numbers. 180 square feet. The exact same footprint Torres called out when we finally pulled Felicia out of that hellhole. Hung a heavy-duty steel entryway with a deadbolt that only triggered from the hallway side. Jake kept spilling it. Spliced a bootleg air duct right into the main AC unit so it stayed completely off the radar. Dropped in a chemical toilet and a tiny wash basin, tapping the pipes straight into the city lines. Packed the studs and rafters with heavy acoustic foam. She demanded absolute dead silence. And you still bought that wine cellar garbage? The cop's tone could freeze water. Jake stared at the floor tiles. Nah, man. By the time I wrapped up, I knew better. But my pockets were already lined, and my girl was fading fast. So I made myself believe it wasn't my circus, not my monkeys. When did it finally click? What kind of cage you put together? The detective pressed, refusing to give him an inch. 2020. He mumbled. Caught a headline about some kid vanishing. Maya. Up in Minneapolis. That last name hit me like a freight train. My brain went to dark places, but I didn't have a shred of solid evidence. Plus, I was scared out of my mind, petrified that running my mouth would get me jammed up as an accessory to God knows what. He finally met the detective's stare. His eyes were completely bloodshot. Then, a week ago, it blew up on CNN. Heard they pulled her out of a secret dungeon breathing. I just knew. It was the exact box I put together. Bennett nodded slowly. Which is why you finally dialed us up. Jake sniffled. Yeah. The guilt was eating me alive. The room dropped into a heavy, suffocating quiet. Finally, the cop pushed her chair back. Sit tight. She slipped into the hallway, waving me over from behind the two-way mirror. Hayes, you want to go around with this guy? I wasn't even sure, but my head bobbed up and down anyway. The second I stepped into that sterile box, Travis caught my eye, and the color totally drained from his face. Mr. Hayes, he choked out, sounding wrecked. Man, I am so freaking sorry. If I had any clue. I took the seat opposite him, my fists trembling with rage. Everything in me wanted to tear his throat out. I wanted to demand how he could craft a literal tomb for a human being and just bounce. But staring him down, he just looked like another broken pawn Cassandra had played. You hammered together the cage that trapped my baby girl for 8 years, I whispered. Water pooled in the contractor's eyes. I know, man. It's a cross I gotta bear until they put me in the ground. I should have pushed back harder. Should have dropped a dime on her to the cops. But my back was against the wall, and I completely folded. And your old lady? I asked. Gone barely 6 months after I took that cursed payout, he replied, sounding dead inside. The hospital drained our accounts regardless. All that dirty cash didn't do a damn thing to save her. Just turned me into a straight-up monster. I was totally at a loss for words. Half of my soul wanted him dead. The other half kinda got it. Listen up, Morrison, Bennett announced, stepping back through the door. We're slapping you with an accessory charge, but playing ball today? That's gonna buy you some points with the DA. The broken man just nodded. Throw the book at me. I got it coming. I pushed my chair back and got up. Right at the exit, I threw a look over my shoulder. If you just pressed her one single time, I spat. My kid could have walked out 7 years and 11 months earlier. 2 days down the line, my phone buzzed. It was Bennett, telling me to pull up to some low-key espresso joint right around my block. Gotta walk in at the precinct early today, she told me through the receiver. Goes by the name Calvin. Claims he was an eyeball witness to that setup crash 8 years back down on Oakwood. Listen, Hayes, you gotta get down here for this. I hit that corner spot exactly 20 minutes after hanging up. Bennett was already posted up in a back corner booth, nursing a black roast with a thick manila folder slapped on the table. She looked totally beat. Dude walked right through our front doors on his own dime today. The cop muttered right as I dropped into the heavy metal chair across her desk. Been sleeping rough for a solid decade, though he's riding a 3-month clean streak right now. Said he couldn't stomach the lies anymore. I shot her a heavy look. All right, so who the hell is this Calvin guy? Pushing 50, total street rat back in 2016. Used to crash in some busted-up squat off Oakwood Avenue. She cracked open a manila file, sliding out a scribbled-up piece of loose leaf. He caught the whole damn show, the fake wreck, the dummy, the entire setup. Except he kept his mouth shut. I slammed my palm down. Why hold out? She nudged the file my way. Listen close to how it went down. Detective Bennett kicked her chair back and laid out the cold, hard facts. Picture this. Calvin's catching some shut-eye in a gutted warehouse, barely 150 feet from Oakwood. It's the dead of night, March 15th, 2016. Hits 12:15 a.m., and a roaring engine jolts him awake. I kept my knuckles locked together on the table, barely breathing. He peeks through a shattered pane and spots this beat-up gray Honda Civic chilling on the shoulder. Headlights dead. Some dude steps out. Calvin pegs him around mid-30s. Regular street build. Nothing special. Guy pops the trunk and hauls out some dead weight. At first glance, Calvin swore it was a body, but it flopped around all rigid, like a giant plastic action figure. My heart basically stopped. The perp drags this thing right onto the asphalt and leaves it flat. Then he starts splashing some dark red juice all over the blacktop. Calvin thought it was blood, but called BS right away, way too chunky, way too neon. Meanwhile, some chick is just posted up watching the whole circus. Doesn't lift a finger. Just standing there, cold. I barely choked the words out. Cassandra. Bennett gave a grim nod. Calvin didn't know her from Adam back then, but the sketch fits her to a T. Give it 5 minutes. And here comes a white Toyota Corolla cruising down the block. Slams on the brakes, screeching tires. Driver bails out. It's a young girl, maybe early 20s, looking like she just saw a ghost. That bystander chick rushes over, traps her in some intense conversation for a few beats. While they're talking, the dude snatches up the dummy, tosses it in the Honda's trunk, and peels out. I stared holes through the detective. He witnessed the whole damn trap. Yeah, he knew from jump it was a hustle. Watched them play out the con from minute 1. My blood was boiling. Then why the hell did he ghost the cops? Bennett let out a heavy sigh. He was a stray on the streets, mister. Hayes. A raging booze hound. 0 papers. No home base. Not a drop of street cred. Figured the brass would just laugh in his face. Who takes the word of a blasted vagrant over a pair of slick, rich-looking yuppies? He rationalized it, thought maybe it was an indie film shoot or some wild internet stunt. Convinced himself it wasn't his circus, not his monkeys. Pure fire ripped through my veins. It was his damn business. My little girl got snatched. He carries that weight now. Bennett dropped her voice to a sympathetic whisper. Fast forward a month, April 2016. Dude starts catching sight of those missing person posters plastered on every downtown pole. Maya clocked her face immediately. Knew she was the kid from the white ride. Still kept to the shadows, completely paralyzed by fear. Terrified the crew would hunt him down to tie up loose ends. Scared the badge wearers would pin the rap on him. Or worse, just write him off as crazy. She took a beat, letting that bitter pill dissolve. Man lugged that nightmare around for 8 brutal years. Swore up and down that every single time a kidnapping made the evening broadcast, Felicia's ghost haunted him. But he was paralyzed, stuck in the mud, still drowning in the bottle, still grinding on the concrete, basically a ghost. I cut in, my voice sharp. Until today, until last week, actually, caught the breaking news on the tube Felicia pulled breathing out of some hellhole basement. He's been locked in a rehab joint for 3 months, finally kicking the habit. Seeing that footage absolutely shattered him. The guilt got way too heavy for his shoulders, so he marched right up to the precinct this morning and spilled his guts. I glared a hole straight through that cardboard folder. Does his rap line up bullet for bullet with Derek's BS? Bennett didn't flinch. The clock ticks, the turf, the Honda Civic, the prop dummy, the phony blood. Every single detail mirrors Brandon's dirt. Calvin couldn't have pulled our confidential intel out of thin air. He wouldn't know Derek or Cassandra from a hole in the wall. He's a totally clean wild card. That makes his words pure gold in a courtroom. Straight up jackpot. The jury's gonna eat it alive. I bobbed my head, processing the hit. Are you gonna lock him up for keeping quiet? Nah. Minnesota statutes say minding your own business ain't a crime unless you're carrying a badge or a specific license, like your teachers, docs, or state workers. Calvin owed the law exactly 0, and he's singing like a canary for us now. I shifted my gaze to the glass. The avenue was buzzing, folks hustling, cracking jokes, oblivious in their little bubbles. None of them had a clue about the real monsters out there. So this bum just strolls away scotangent-free? I challenged. By the book. Yeah. Bennett lost the cop edge for a second. As for his soul, that's a tab he's got to settle with the man upstairs. But hey, take it for what it's worth, he begged me to pass this along. She fished a crumpled up scrap out of the file and practically shoved it into my palm. I unfolded the mess. The ink was jittery, like a junkie's scrawl, but clear. Mr. Hayes, my bad for not stepping to the plate sooner. I was terrified out of my mind, sick with shame. If I could hit rewind and flip the script, I'd do it in a heartbeat. Praying your little girl can finally catch a break, Calvin. I crushed the paper back up and shoved it deep in my coat pocket, completely numb to the world. Should I be thanking the guy or punching his lights out? Probably both. So what's the next play? I finally asked. If things get ugly in court, Calvin takes the stand. Bennett replied stone cold. Look, man, once you stack up the guy's testimony, Derek spilling his guts, the lab results, Morrison's statement, and that deepfake audio breakdown, we've got Cassandra dead to rights. She slammed the file shut. Solid. Mr. Hayes, I get that this is a lot to process, but we're at the finish line. I gave a stiff nod. The finish line. Yet my brain was stuck on a loop. 8 straight years. Just one more bystander who could have pulled the plug on this nightmare. The takedown went down on a Saturday morning, smack in the middle of Cassandra's big shot gallery launch. Detective Bennett wasn't playing. She picked that exact moment to make it sting the worst. She caught a whole week of breathing room while we put the puzzle together. Bennett had told me the previous night. But today, we've got the hammer. I want her to feel in her bones that her bulletproof bougie rep ain't gonna save her now. So there I was, posted up outside Vanessa Designs, some ritzy, glassed-out spot in downtown Minneapolis at exactly 10:45 in the morning. Peeking through the storefront, I clocked around 40 high rollers kicking back, downing bubbly, and hyping up the iced-out pieces under the heavy lights. Stark white paint, spotless marble, the whole vibe screaming fake perfection. And holding court right in the dead center was my girl, Cassandra, rocking a slick black gown, face beat to the gods, flashing that killer grin while she hyped up a glass case to some big money buyers. Bennett was chilling right beside me, flanked by Torres and 3 other heavy hitters in uniform. Mr. Hayes, you absolutely sure you want a front row seat to this? I bobbed my head. I gotta see it go down. She sized me up for a beat, then gave the green light. All right, let's hit it. We pushed through the main entrance, kicking off a weak little chime from the door sensor. A couple of the rich folks threw us a side-eye. Then they caught the badges and vests. The whole joint dropped to 0 volume. Cassandra whipped around mid-pitch, locked eyes with Bennett, and that plastic smile straight up melted. All the color drained from her mug. Vanessa, Bennett barked, her tone ice-cold and ringing out through the dead silent room. You're getting bagged for kidnapping, illegal lockup, plotting a scam, forging papers, and bleeding accounts dry. My kid stumbled back a pace. Nah, you guys got it totally twisted. I'm clean, I swear. You got the right to zip it. Bennett kept pushing forward, dropping the Miranda like a hammer. Whatever comes out of your mouth is going to get thrown right back at you in front of a judge. You get a lawyer. If your pockets are empty, the state's going to spot you a public defender. Torres slid up on her blind side, ripping the steel bracelets off his rig. Cassandra's eyes were bouncing off the walls like a cornered rat. The VIP crowd had completely scattered, looking like they'd just seen a ghost. Mumbles and whispers started popping off in the back. Some clown already had their cell out, catching it all in 4K. That's when she spotted me posted up by the entrance. Her jaw basically hit the floor. Dad? I took my time stepping up, the crowd splitting like the Red Sea. She just stared at me, her whole tough girl act crumbling to dust. Dad, come on, man, she choked out, practically hyperventilating. You gotta trust me. I was keeping her safe. She was in deep trouble. Cut the bull, Cass, I muttered, keeping it low. I got the whole playbook. The staged crash. Whitmore. Those synthetic voice drops. Morrison. Calvin. Derek. Every single dirty move. She shook her head wild. Waterworks on full blast. You just don't get it! Felicia was about to bail on us. She copped a gig in New York. She was gonna leave us in the dirt. When Ma passed, I swore I'd hold the crew together. By tossing your own flesh and blood in a dungeon for 8 straight years? I barked, losing my cool. By jacking her sketches? By brainwashing her into thinking she caught a body? I kept her fed. She bawled out. I dropped off sketch pads. I held her down. You turned her into a damn hostage. I roared. She was 19. For crying out loud. She had her whole run in front of her. And you completely hijacked it. Her legs gave out, hitting the floor in an absolute meltdown. I swear to God it wasn't supposed to be an 8-year stretch. I tried to open that door. I choked. I was desperate. Dad, I needed her creative juice. I needed those pieces to pop. I couldn't build this empire without her. I stared holes into my own kid, the one I rode for, the one I took at her word and realized I was looking at a total stranger. Just a twisted soul who actually bought her own lies. You didn't need her, I told her straight up. You played her. And in the mix, you nuked both your futures. Torres yanked her up by the armpits. She was shaking like a leaf as he clicked the irons shut behind her back. You could hear a pin drop in that room, save for the paparazzi outside flashing bulbs through the glass. Bennett shooed the press back like stray dogs. While they frog-marched her to the exit, she pumped the brakes right next to me. I pulled this off for us, old man, she hissed under her breath. I did the dirty work so we wouldn't crack. Can't you get that? I just gave her dead air. Please don't write me off, she whimpered, sounding like a little kid. I'm still your blood. My chest was tight, words barely scraping by. You used to be my kid, but this monster in front of me? I don't know her. She choked out a ragged wail while Torres bulldozed her toward the doors. The gawkers cleared a path. Shutters went crazy. Some media vulture screamed out a question, but Bennett shut that noise down real quick. I was standing alone in the middle of that upscale gallery, boxed in by all the glass display cases. Everyone called it Cassandra's collection. Nah, it was 100% Felicia's genius. Stepping up to one of the displays, my eyes locked onto a silver chain. It had these crazy detailed vines twisted tight around the drop. I leaned in real close, practically putting my nose to the glass. And bam! Right there, buried in the bend of a silver leaf, the letter F. Riley's voice started ringing loud in my head. She was begging for a lifeline in every damn piece she made. Glancing out the storefront glass, I caught Officer Torres popping the back of his squad car and shoving Cassandra into the back seat. She shot one final look over her shoulder, her makeup totally wrecked and face soaked with tears. That flawless high society mask? Completely trashed. I made this move for the family, Pops, she had told me. Standing there drowning in all that ripped-off art, a piece of my soul just snapped. You want to know the most messed up part? It wasn't even the fact that she burned Felicia's whole world to the ground. It was that even at the bitter end, after all the hell she caused, she honestly bought her own lie. She truly believed she was the good guy. 7 days after they locked Cassandra up, the doctors finally cut Felicia loose from the hospital. The medical staff claimed her body was holding up fine, but they hit me with the hard truth it was going to take months, maybe years of serious shrinking to unpack the absolute torture she survived. Later that night, kicking back in the living room of the exact same crib where she was kept prisoner, my baby girl finally broke down how she made it out alive. I'd already gutted that nightmare basement and boarded up the entry tight. I just didn't have the stomach to take a sledgehammer to the walls. Maybe down the line, sure. For now, I deadbolted the heavy door and slid a massive bookshelf right over it. Felicia made it crystal clear she never wanted to lay eyes on that pit again. Not in this lifetime. She was curled up on the sofa, swallowed by a giant hoodie, looking way less like a ghost than she did just a week back. I brewed up some hot tea and posted up next to her, walking on eggshells so I wouldn't push too hard. "Dad," she whispered, out of nowhere. "I gotta spill the whole story. Forget the cops, forget the trial. This is strictly for you to hear, just so you know what went down." I tried shutting it down, telling her she didn't owe me anything if the wounds were still too fresh. I got no choice. She fired back. "I gotta get this poison out of my system so I know the nightmare's actually done." I just gave her a nod. "I got you, kid." Clutching that hot mug for dear life, she told me that first week was pure hell on earth, bawling my eyes out non-stop, starving myself. I kept praying it was just a bad trip and I'd snap out of it, but morning never came. She kept her eyes glued to her drink. Cassandra would slide grub my way 3 times a day, just sitting on the other side of that heavy door, running her mouth through the gap. She played the savior card constantly, brainwashing me into thinking the feds were hunting me down, and if they caught me, I'd be doing hard time. Always claiming she was working back channels to score me a heavyweight lawyer, but that it was a slow grind, begging me to just put my faith in her. I clenched my teeth so hard my jaw ached. "I actually bought her garbage," Felicia choked out. "I was scared out of my damn mind. I truly thought I put somebody in the ground, thought I was a straight-up killer. So, I forced food down my throat, kept my pulse going, figuring if I just toughed it out long enough, Cassandra would pull some strings and make it go away. Spoiler alert, she didn't." I shook my head. By month number 2, when she started asking about seeing daylight, she kept getting hit with, "Hold up, not yet." 3 months bled into 6, and suddenly, a whole year had vanished. Her voice totally broke right there. That's the exact moment the truth slapped me in the face. She was never letting me out of that hole. She sucked in a deep breath. Sometime in 2017, the craziest thing went down. Heard this scratching up in the air ducks. Next thing I know, this tiny sparrow with a busted wing drops straight onto the floor. I just stared at my kid, absolutely floored. "I nursed that little guy back to health," she mumbled. "Ripped up scraps of fabric for a makeshift cast. Tossed it whatever crumbs I had left from my meals. Ended up calling the bird Hope." Her eyes started welling up. Seeing Hope bounce back gave me a reason to wake up every morning. Proved to me that even shattered things can get pieced back together. "So what was the end game for the bird?" I pressed. "Back in 2018, I gave her a boost right up into that same vent. Figured she'd hit the skies and never look back. But barely 2 days later, she swung right back around. Felicia flashed a ghost of a smile. Hit me right then. We were both locked in the same cell. She wouldn't abandon me, and I couldn't bust out of that prison. But having her around kept my heart beating. She swiped the tears off her face. To keep from going totally crazy, I started sketching. Cassandra would slide over sketch pads, pencils, and design books. Claimed I needed to draft up bling for her brand, promising the cash flow would pay off my phantom lawyers. I just shut my eyes, sick to my stomach. I wasn't putting pencil to paper for her benefit, Felicia insisted. I hustled on those sketches for my own sanity, day in and day out. Woods, waves, little birds, and you, Dad, banged out over 100 different drawings of your face, strictly off the dome. Recreating your face on paper was the only thing proving I still mattered to somebody out there, knowing you'd eventually track me down. She pushed on. By 2019, Cassandra started turning the screws. She was demanding fresh drops for her fake-ass business. At that point, I knew damn well there were no attorneys, but I needed an anchor so I wouldn't lose my mind. So I kept dropping designs. She looked me dead in the eye. That's exactly when I started sneaking the letter F into the fine print of every single drop. I gave a heavy nod. Yeah, Riley spilled the beans on that one. I'd bet my life she'd catch it, Felicia said. Back in our college days, Riley and me would always tag our projects on the sly. Just our little street code to claim our turf. So I ran that same play again. It was my SOS wrapped in silver. Between 2019 and 2022, I drafted 15 different pieces, all packing that secret F. And nobody but Riley caught the signal. Her voice had the shakes now. Just Riley. I reached out and grabbed her hand tight. She was out there pounding the pavement for you, day in and day out. I know. Felicia barely whispered it. She's the one who pulled me from the fire. But man, by year 8, I was completely gassed. Fully accepted I was leaving in a body bag. The sketches slowed down. I just went completely numb. And then, out of nowhere, I caught some dude's voice echoing from the other side of the wall. Gary was running his mouth to you. The memories hit me like a freight train, she gasped, crying even harder. A couple of days went by, and then your voice cut through the dark. You actually called out for me. Her fingers were shaking like leaves. Hearing that, it meant I wasn't going to die. I just knew my pops was coming. I yanked her into my chest. Both of us breaking down not 'cause it hurt, but 'cause the nightmare was finally over. I stayed sketching. Day in and day out, Felicia whispered. Portraits of you. Trees. The damn sky I was locked away from. And hope that little bird that showed me you can still fly after getting busted up. She met my gaze, and for the first time in 8 long years, that dead stare was gone. The spark was back. I kept breathing 'cause I banked on you kicking the door down, she confessed. Even when throwing in the towel felt like the only way out. Even staring death in the face, my pencil stayed moving. 'Cause deep down, I knew you'd never stop stepping up as my dad. I squeezed her tight, shedding fresh tears because the kid was dead on. My job as her old man never ended. I'd just been too damn blind to see what was right in front of me. 3 months down the line, I was posted up in the gallery of the Hennepin County Courthouse, watching my oldest kid face the music. We'd dragged through 14 brutal days of trial. But today was the main event, the judge dropping the hammer. Cassandra was parked at the defense table rocking County Orange, hands stacked quietly in her lap. She looked ghostly white, but kept her cool. Felicia was squeezing my knuckles white right next to me. We showed up to watch this hellish run close out so we could finally start over. The whole room was dead silent. Heavy mahogany walls, vaulted ceilings, and that massive Minnesota state seal looming right behind the bench. Judge Carroll, a tough-as-nails woman in her early 60s who didn't miss a trick and took zero bull from anybody, skimmed the paperwork one final time before locking eyes with the room. "Let's get this court on the record," she barked. I felt Felicia stiffen up like a board next to me. The whole proceeding had drained the life out of us. A fortnight of grinding testimony, hard receipts, and lawyer talk. The district attorney had locked down a bulletproof case. They threw the entire book at Vanessa, catching charges for abduction, illegal confinement, plotting a scam, faking documents, and bleeding accounts dry. Brandon caught a separate case, but he already folded and took a plea deal to dodge the maximum bid. The folks who took the stand completely tore Cassandra apart. Felicia herself got up there on the third morning. She kept her voice dead calm, laying out how she rotted in that cellar for 8 years. For 8 years, I thought I had blood on my hands, she stated, staring straight through her sister. My own flesh and blood robbed me of my life over a straight-up lie. Derek stepped to the mic on day 5. He spilled his guts about faking the crash, playing a fake cop, and backing Cassandra's twisted hustle. Dude choked up heavy when he admitted, I was a punk. I should have pulled the plug on the whole operation, but I choked. Then Eleanor rolled through with her personal diaries and ring cam footage. 8 solid years of proof tracking all that shady late-night movement. Cassandra sliding in and out with groceries. I should have dialed 911 way back. Dorothy whimpered, completely rattled. That's a weight I gotta carry to my grave. Jade broke down the secret signatures, 15 separate drops over 3 years. Felicia was practically bleeding out for a lifeline, Riley testified. And it almost slipped right past me. Next up was Calvin, who swore he saw the bogus hit and run go down. His story lined up with Derek's spilling like puzzle pieces. A total bystander, with zero skin in the game. The mountain of proof was just too heavy to beat. It took the jury barely 4 hours to come back and nail her to the wall on absolutely everything. Now, 3 months post-bust, Judgment Day had arrived. Judge Sullivan drilled her eyes into Cassandra. Miss Hayes, you got anything to say before I hand down this time? Cassandra dragged herself to her feet. Her mouthpiece tried to pull her back, but she brushed him off. Yeah, Your Honor. She spun around to face the gallery, locking onto me, then shifting to Felicia. I get what y'all are thinking, she stammered, her voice shaking out, that I'm some cold-blooded psycho. But that ain't me. I got mad love for my sister. Always have. Felicia's grip almost crushed my fingers. She was packing up and bouncing. Cassandra kept going. Had some fancy gig lined up in New York. Was about to leave us in the dirt. When Mom passed, I swore on everything I'd hold our crew together. I was just watching her back. I kept her fed, brought her paints, made sure nobody could touch her. You threw me in a damn dungeon, Felicia roared from the row behind me. You jacked 8 years of my youth. The judge threw a hand up to kill the noise. Miss Hayes, wait your turn to get on the record. Cassandra's whole tough girl act just shattered. It was never supposed to be an 8-year stretch. I swear I was going to crack the door, but I couldn't do it. I needed her around. I needed her gift. And I genuinely believed I was making the right call. She locked onto my face, bawling her eyes out. Pops, please. I made that move for us. Just trying to keep the family from crumbling. I kept my mouth shut. Couldn't force a single word out. Judge Sullivan looked at her like she was dirt. Miss Hayes, plant yourself. She flipped open the heavy manila folder. You could hear a pin drop in that room. Vanessa. Judge Sullivan kicked off. A jury of your peers has found you dead, guilty of stealing a human being, illegal detainment, conspiracy to run a fraud scheme, document forgery, and bleeding your victim's finances dry. The proof laid out in that courtroom painted a cold-blooded picture of pure, intentional torture dragging on for 8 long years. The judge locked eyes with her, totally stone-faced. Don't sell me that love garbage, Miss Hayes. This was all about sick, twisted power. Real love doesn't lock somebody in a cage. It doesn't run a con. And it damn sure doesn't rob someone of their entire existence. Cassandra finally dropped her head. For snatching her off the map, the judge declared, I'm handing you 15 years behind bars. And for keeping her locked away like an animal, you're getting another 10 years tacked straight onto the back of that. Add up the rest of the sheet, and she was looking at a grand total of 25 years doing hard time at the Minnesota Women's Pen. Don't even think about parole for 15 years. The wooden gavel slammed down like a gunshot ringing through the hall. 25 calendar years. You could see Cassandra physically break. shoulders trembling while her suit whispered in her ear before two bailiffs swooped in to haul her away. They perp-walked her right by me, and she froze. Dad, I just stared at the kid I actually brought up in this world. The same little girl I showed how to pedal a bike and lace up her kicks, begging for forgiveness. I'm sorry, she mouthed. I gave her dead silence. Words were completely useless now. Out in the hallway, Felicia practically collapsed into my chest, crying so hard she couldn't even make a sound. A judge's order doesn't just wipe away 8 whole years, she choked out. I squeezed her close. True, I told her, but that nightmare is officially dead and buried. We just anchored each other there for a minute. Then she pulled herself together, scrubbed her face, and looked up. Can we just get out of here, Dad? I gave her a firm nod. You bet. Let's get to the house. Stepping out those doors, the sun was blazing hot and real. And for the very first time in 8 long years, my baby girl stepped onto the pavement with no chains on her soul. Flash forward 6 months past the verdict, and I'm chilling in the back of this packed bookshop, watching her drop knowledge on a crowd of maybe 200 heads. She'd put on 15 healthy pounds. She was rocking a fresh, choppy haircut, looking sharp with actual life back in her face. But the real kicker was the absolute fire burning in her gaze. It wasn't just survival mode anymore. It was straight-up rebirth. The gig was at Malaprops, this laid-back indie joint right in the heartbeat of downtown Minneapolis. The room was jammed with beat reporters, day one backers, folks who'd been through their own hell, and people just wanting the inside scoop. Holding down the front row were Riley, Stephen, and Dorothy, along with Gary, the real ones who went to war with us to get Felicia back on the block. Right next to her was a massive pile of hardcovers. The jacket art had this lone bird busting out of a pitch-black cage, wings caught full span against the clouds. The Hidden Room, Felicia's own raw story about making it out alive. I'd already powered through the pages twice. It wrecked me every single time, serving as a brutal reminder of why we had to go so hard against her own blood. She posted up at the mic, speaking quiet but totally grounded, keeping it low-key in a dark knit sweater and denim with her hands resting calm on the stand. Appreciate every single one of you pulling up today, she kicked off. Spilling my guts on paper was hell, but I had to get it out there, not just to save my own sanity, but for anybody who knows what it's like to be stuck in a corner, boxed in by life, boxed in by your own mind, or completely owned by somebody else. She took a beat, looking out over the faces. Look, I did 8 years buried alive in a basement. 8 solid years brainwashed into thinking I had blood on my hands. My own flesh and blood made me believe the streets were better off with me gone, that I was a total mess, a liability, someone nobody could ever give a damn about. You could hear her voice fracture, but she kept pushing through. Turns out, I wasn't damaged goods. I was getting played like a fool, and unpacking that lie took a massive toll on my soul. You could hear a pin drop in that joint, with Riley just bawling in the front. Down in that hole, I had 0. Nothing but some scrap paper, a few lead pencils, and this little bird I called Hope. That got a couple of weak laughs through the waterworks. She took a nasty spill coming down the air vents and messed herself up. I patched that bird up, and even when I gave her a ticket out, she stayed close. Taught me that even when you're buried in the absolute gutter, life keeps scrapping. She locked her sights dead on me from the stage. Brooke and I put this whole thing on paper for my old man, the guy who never once quit holding it down as my father. Even when my mind tricked me into thinking he'd moved on. Man, I felt a lump the size of a rock in my throat, so I just gave her a solid nod. Once the rap party ended, we cruised back, definitely not to that cursed property on Ashford Lane. Since we dumped that real estate months back, just being on that block gave us bad vibes. We copped a fresh spot up on the 5th floor of this sleek new high-rise right by the water. The pad was decked out with massive glass panels from top to bottom, keeping it drenched in sunlight. Felicia didn't play when she demanded that feature. I gotta have eyes on the sky 24/7, she'd told me. Now we were just kicking back on the sofa with some hot tea, the skyline flashing neon outside. You killed it tonight, kiddo, I told her. Straight up legendary. She flashed this totally genuine, unbroken grin. Appreciate it, Dad. It actually felt right. Terrifying as hell. But right. I looked at her hard. Where's your head at right now? For real? She chewed on that for a second. I'm leveling up. Shrink sessions are doing their thing, and the survivor circles keep me grounded. But straight up, running those creative therapy clinics is the rawest, best move I've ever made. See, once the gavel dropped, she totally walked away from her old jewelry hustle. Instead, she launched Hope's Wings Art Therapy, a legit nonprofit hooking up deep trauma victims with free sessions to channel their ghosts. She had them throwing paint, sketching, and molding clay to bleed out the pain on their own terms, exactly the way she fought her way back to the light. You're pulling a lot of folks out of the dark, I told her. Man, I just had to make sense of all that mess. What's done is done, but I can hold down the ones walking that same rough path. I gave her a nod. Your moms would be shining looking down at you right now. Her grin slipped for a split second. Then she hit me with a curveball out of nowhere. Pops, you think I'll ever find it in my heart to forgive? Cassandra? I put my cup down, making sure I didn't say the wrong thing. Real talk, baby girl? I couldn't tell you. Could be yeah, could be a hard no. You don't owe nobody a free pass. That's a card you play only when your spirit is completely right with it. I hear that, she whispered. Deep down, there's a piece of me that's still got love for her. That's blood. But another side of me is just, man, I don't know if I can ever drop that baggage. You ain't got to make that call today, I shot back. Getting your mind right takes a minute, and whatever you feeling right now is valid. She rested her head against my shoulder. Good looking out, Pops. Deep into the night, I was posted up by the glass, taking in the city lights. My girl had crashed hard, completely wiped but finally at peace. My mind kept rewinding through the hell we survived. The fake smiles, the mind games, 8 whole years of being gagged, stepping into that courtroom, the raw agony of it all. But then I pictured that fire back in her stare, how she stepped up in front of 200 heads and laid her truth bare for the world, how she took a busted situation and built a straight-up masterpiece. She didn't just make it out alive. My girl took home the belt. I caught a glimpse of that paperback on the table, thought about that secret spot, and cracked a grin. When the sun came up, we were going to keep pushing, keep putting the pieces back together, laying bricks for this fresh start, day by day. But for tonight, I gave myself permission to catch a vibe I hadn't felt in a minute. Real tranquility. My kid was out of the woods, standing 10 toes down. She broke her chains, and so did I. Now, for all y'all tuning into this crazy family saga, lock this in your brain. I was this close to losing my flesh and blood. Not because my heart wasn't in it, but because I put my faith in a snake. I let a shiny surface blind my gut feeling. I chose the quiet over asking the hard stuff. I took the easy road instead of facing the ugly facts. If I could hit rewind, I would have kept my ears wide open. I would have been pressing folks for answers non-stop. I should have let the man upstairs steer me through the fog instead of letting tiredness and shame bury my instincts. Don't play yourself like I did. Don't waste 8 trips around the sun missing what's dead in your face. The universe threw me 3 lifelines to catch the real story. First time was when Gary caught those sobs echoing from down in the cellar. Then Dorothy pulled up with the paper trail. And finally, Riley clocked that buried autograph. 3 different times something whispered, "Open your damn eyes." And 3 times I almost looked the other way. Thank the Lord I snapped out of it. Going through this nightmare dropped a heavy lesson on my head. But I needed it. Caring about somebody without staying on point ain't keeping them safe. Love without putting in the heavy lifting is completely useless. This payback I pulled, it wasn't about flying off the handle. It was about leveling the playing field. About not letting straight-up wickedness use the word family as a shield. Let me put you on game right quick. Don't move like I did. Never think your inner circle is too holy to stab you in the back. Stop brushing off the warning signs just because stepping to somebody feels awkward. And you gotta swing for your day ones until the wheels fall off, even if you're throwing hands with your own blood. This whole fatherly get-back wasn't solely about avenging my daughter. It was for every mom and pop who got played, every brother or sister who caught a knife in the back, and every victim forced to bite their tongue. The streets might call it vengeance, but I call it a father's absolute duty. It's a dad saying hell no to letting his kid bleed out in the shadows. So look, if this real-life drama hit you in the chest, if it got your gears turning or told you to watch your six, drop a word in the comments. Pass this along to somebody who needs a wake-up call, and smash that subscribe button so you're always locked in when we drop something heavy. Mad respect for rocking with me till the very last second. Y'all giving me your time is everything. Just a heads up before we dip. The joints we share here might have a little creative spin to drop some knowledge and make you think. If this gritty vibe ain't your cup of tea, no sweat, go ahead and surf around for something that hits your lane better. Stay up, keep your head on a swivel, and watch your back out there.